His eyes was a heavenly pale blue, gleaming like polished sapphires in the sunlight, with skin as pale as the silvery moonlight, with the perfection and smoothness of a porcelain doll. The hair was wavy with curls so tight, with a delicious look that resembled the texture of velvet. Each wave of hair lay plump and loose as it rested softly against the ghostly paleness of his porcelain-style skin. The colour of his hair was a dark blonde and aided the piercing of the icy pale blue eyes that gleamed like the finest of jewels in the sunlight of the sun. His neck was long and slender. Just below the sharp collarbone could be seen resting elegantly above his muscular chest. His waist was tight and narrow, with a thinness that appeared non-human. The muscular shape gave a sense of sex appeal. The legs were shapely and gave a sense of superior strength, as the feet were large enough to withhold the strength of the legs that could rival a god. As I gazed further and looked upwards, I noticed the delicate yet long slender fingers with nails as clear as glass that looked as sharp as razors resting at the wrists of his muscular yet elegant arms. His shoulders were square and prominent and gave such a deepened sensual sense of irresistible power. It took my breath away and left me weak at the knees. My story begins on a rather dull day that unexpectedly leads to excitement and adventure. I woke up at 11 o'clock, made my bed and turned on my computer to check YouTube before heading to the kitchen to prepare my morning coffee. After saying a quick good morning to my parents, I returned to my bedroom with my drink, sipping my coffee whilst listening to music and enjoying a few morning cigarettes. As I relaxed, I realised I didn't know what to do with my day. I contemplated various activities, but nothing seemed to capture my interest. Eventually, I decided to take a walk to Westermill Cemetery, choosing to go at midnight rather than during the day. With many hours to fill before midnight, I focused on planning my night and gathering everything I would need for this adventure. The first item on my list was a bag spacious enough to carry all the essentials for a night of survival, something comfortable to carry. I opted for my lime green hippie bag, which had plenty of space and several convenient pockets. The first thing I packed was a set of 32 AA batteries, sufficient enough to power the 2 torches I would need. Next, I included 50 grams of gold stones tobacco and 2 lighters. I also packed a blanket and an extra jumper for warmth, along with a fully charged spare mobile phone to use for filming and taking photos, along with a portable battery-operated phone charger and additional batteries for it. Later, I added a hot thermos of tomato and basil soup, some snacks, and water to prepare for the long night ahead. I also included my glasses, a pack of 20 taper candles in case the torches ran out of batteries, and a small lantern that could serve as an additional light source if needed. Just for good laughs, I packed garlic, holy water, and a cross, just in case any vampires decided to attack. I laughed at the thought. Vampires aren't real, are they? After a moment, I stopped, grabbed a cigarette, and thought about anything else I might need in my bag for the night ahead. I thought it would be a good idea to pack a packet of tissues, some hand sanitizer, and a book to read. After the excitement of trying to catch paranormal entities on video, the rest of the night would likely become boring and I would need something to pass the time until sunrise. I thought I had everything I needed as I glanced at the clock. It was 3 p.m. and before long I would need to head to the bath for my 4 p.m. wash. I stood up, set my bag aside and opened the wardrobe door to search for an appropriate outfit for the night. The outfit I chose was a sleeved black t-shirt, along with a thick and fluffy Gothic-style jumper to accompany my thick black jeans that have spikes coming out from the sides, and my Gothic moon boots, which had a long knee height and zipped up from the sides, so no inconvenience of a loose lace if fear beheld me, and if I felt I needed to run. These boots were strong enough to take the impact of stomping feet amongst the ground. These boots are a good, sturdy boot, made of leather, just right for a long night of walking through a rough and dirty terrain. My outfit for the night was chosen, and my soaps were ready. All I had to do now was run my bath. I went into the bathroom and cleaned the bathtub, as my family is not the most hygienic and always leaves a thick rim of brown along the inner part of the tub. I took hold of the cleaner and sprayed it generously along the inside of the bathtub, then scrubbed with a fresh, clean cloth. After rinsing out the tub, I filled it with nice hot water, climbed in and began my usual washing rituals. Once I finished my cleaning routine, I had 45 minutes to indulge in reading some works by my favourite author and to warm up before leaving the bath to cook my evening meal. I returned to my bedroom, dried off, and felt cold again. I put away all the soaps I'd used and placed my book in my bag, just in case I would need it later. I walked over to my 1800s sideboard and opened the cupboard door to put all the sanitary products back. I then pulled out my deodorants and my favourite perfume, Chanel No. 5. After applying the deodorant and perfume, I sat down to have a cigarette, while the scents dried on my skin. I always followed this routine of smoking a cigarette and waiting for the deodorant to dry, because I've always hated the feel of wet armpits. Once everything was dry, I got dressed for the night and headed to the kitchen to prepare an evening meal before setting out on my mini daredevil adventure. I stood up and walked towards my bedroom door, unsure of what to cook for dinner. As I descended the stairs, I passed through the open door of the living room where my mother was wrapped in a red blanket from head to toe. She was leaning to the side, fast asleep, while a murder show blared in the background. I tiptoed past her to avoid waking her and continued into the dining room, which my father had converted into his computer room. On the left wall were a fridge and freezer, and beside his recliner on the right side sat the tumble dryer, roaring away with the day's laundry. Like my mother, my father was also wrapped in a blanket, snoozing away as horror films blared from his computer screen. I made my way to the kitchen door, which sometimes comes off its hinges and is quite heavy to pull. I quietly entered the messy kitchen where food spills covered the countertops and the floor, but the normal rubbish and recycling bins were overflowing and spilling over the sides. The sink was filled with dirty pots, pans and dishes that had been left to stink, and several cupboard doors were left open in the darkness of the winter evening. It was now 6 o'clock, the time I was allowed to cook. I am permitted only 1 hour to prepare dinner, so I decided to put sliced potatoes, fresh onions, tomatoes and mushrooms, along with 3 vegan sausages in the oven. I would also add some tomato ketchup for dipping. I placed all the sliced potatoes, onions, tomatoes and mushrooms, along with vegan sausages, onto a tray and put it into the preheated oven at gas mark 6 for 25 minutes. During that time, I took my phone out of my pocket and played a game, ignoring the mess my parents had left around the kitchen. A few minutes into playing, the sky began to darken, so I walked over to the light switch and turned on the kitchen light before returning to my game. Soon enough, it was time to take the tray out of the oven, so I grabbed the oven mitts, removed the tray and transferred all the cooked food into my silver bowl, adding a good dash of tomato sauce to finish. I washed the tray and placed it back into the cupboard, making sure the oven was turned off. Then I walked through the dining room where my father was still sleeping. and passed through the front room where my mother was also asleep, before heading upstairs back into my bedroom. Once there, I sat in front of my computer and scrolled through YouTube to find a video worth watching while I ate dinner. I found a video about fat phobia, where a man humorously commented on the absurdity of people who harboured hatred against anyone thinner than they are. I began to enjoy my meal, and before long I had ravenously eaten everything in my bowl, excited about what the night had in store for me. I placed the empty bowl down on the floor in front of the computer and began to roll myself an after-dinner cigarette. I picked up the packet of rolling papers, removed one, and then took a filter from my tobacco pouch. I placed the filter at the top end of the cigarette paper, grabbed a good pinch of tobacco from the pouch, and filled the empty space in the paper. Using both hands, fingers and thumbs, I rolled the paper into a smooth tube-like shape. Once I had done this, I brought the lighter up to the end of the cigarette and lit it, taking my first deep draw of the smoky creation. I looked down at the clock, which read 8 p.m. Only 4 hours before my adventure in the cemetery began. Butterflies fluttered in my stomach and I felt a nervous yet excited sensation. Something deep down warned me of potential danger, quietly alerting me as if my soul was speaking a scary truth. But I brushed it off, chalking it up to not just nerves about being in the cemetery at night. As I sat there, smoking my cigarette, various thoughts raced through my mind. I didn't pay attention to the cigarette itself, and realizing I had finished smoking when I felt the searing pain of the lit end burning my fingers. I jumped and quickly tossed the remains into the ashtray, sucking on the tip of my sore finger to ease the sting. Shortly after, I got up, grabbed my bowl and went down the stairs into the living room where my mother was engrossed in her murder show, smoking a cigarette herself. I walked past her and entered the dining room. My father wasn't there as he had taken Prince, our husky, out for his last walk before bed. I walked into the messy kitchen and washed and dried my bowl. Afterward, I made my way back through the living room where my mother was so absorbed in her show that she didn't notice me passing by. I climbed back up the stairs into my bedroom where I put the bowl away in the cupboard by the computer and sat down to have another smoke. It was now 8:30, and with nothing better to do, I checked my bag to ensure I had everything I needed. I tidied up the bedroom, making the bed and ensuring everything was clean and organised before heading out on my adventure for the night. After finishing tidying up the bedroom and checking my bag, I sat quietly on the floor drinking my energy drink, smoking and listening to Mozart. I let my thoughts drift into bliss, yet an uneasiness lingered in the background, reminding me that it might not be a good idea to go out tonight. I chose to ignore this feeling and focused instead on the videos I wanted to make for my YouTube channel. I looked down at the clock and saw it was 10:30. Time flies when you're lost in your thoughts. By then, my energy drink can was empty, so I picked it up and tossed it into the bin. I kept it in my cupboard next to the computer. Then, I went to the wardrobe and pulled out my long leather jacket. Before putting on my jacket, I made one last trip to the bathroom and checked to make sure everything was ready in my bag, as well as turning off my computer. After that, I put on my long leather jacket, rolled a cigarette and grabbed my keys. As I looked around outside my bedroom, I realised everyone was already in bed. I checked the time on my phone. 11 p.m. I quietly crept down the stairs and unlocked the front door. I stepped outside, closed it gently, and locked it as quietly as I could. I paused for a moment to breathe in the fresh, cool night air, taking a minute or two to gather the courage to make my way to Western Mills Cemetery. I looked straight ahead of me into the darkness with only the orangey glow of the street lamps for company, and knew I must take the short walk. which I was going to drag out for an hour. I walked down the garden path, taking in the beauty of the night sky, with all its visible stars, and its huge full moon glowing like a child's nightlight in the abyss of darkness. On this night, very few cars zoomed up and down the roads, and everything, everywhere felt like a darkened, apocalyptic wasteland of beautiful shadows that claimed the night. The trees alongside the road exuded an ominous, childlike vision of horror. Their leaves rustled in the darkness, creating an eerie sound that resembled soft footsteps in the vast distance, faint yet audible. The bitter chill of the winter wind bit into my body like the tiny teeth of an unseen nighttime monster, its presence strongly felt despite its invisibility. Suddenly, a soft mist of rain began to fall, yet the moon was still big and bright in the sky. It was the only company, the only friend, if you will, that I had for the night. As I continued my walk down the road and headed up Mill Street, which led to the steep hill I had to climb to reach Western Mill Cemetery, I began to feel an uneasiness in the pit of my stomach. My nerves were frayed and I almost turned back, but I pressed on in pursuit of my nighttime adventure in the ancient graveyard. For a moment, I thought I saw a flash of a figure dart past me out of the corner of my eye, but I dismissed it as my imagination. I soon reached the bottom of the hill that I needed to climb to reach the gates of the graveyard. All of a sudden, the air grew dense, and the chill of the winter wind cut right through me. I gripped my leather jacket tightly against my shivering body. Slowly and shakily, I started to walk, my heart pounding inside my chest and my legs feeling as weak as jelly. As I stumbled up the hill in the darkness instilled a deep sense of fear in my heart. I could only make out the outlines of the graves in the distance under the light of the silvery moon, which added to the eerie atmosphere. I continued walking until I finally arrived at the gates of the graveyard. I stood still, my heart pounding and my legs still weak. I was softly yet breathlessly panting, remaining deathly still at the gates for several minutes. My hands were tightly gripping the bars of the gate, causing my fingers to turn white and numb in the icy chill. Suddenly, I swear I heard a faint whisper behind me, so soft, so low, it could have easily gone unheard. It whispered my name, Claire. As I stood there, I thought the voice I heard was strange, like nothing I had ever encountered before. Even though it was the faintest of whispers, I could detect some kind of accent, a type of accent that was familiar yet strange. It felt like a voice from a language lost to the past. But how did I know this, considering I had never heard it before? The accent had a seductive yet elegant tone, an air of allure that made me want to hear more. It felt like the voice of an angel, drawing me in and leaving me wanting to listen longer. It was as if I were being stroked by the down of a bird's feather, caressed by the softest of kisses. I desperately wanted to hear more of this angelic voice, but I soon came back to my senses. From one of the front pockets of my bag, I pulled out my tobacco pouch and took out a pre-rolled cigarette. I shakily held the lighter to the end of my cigarette and clumsily lit it, accidentally dropping my lighter on the floor. I bent down in the darkness, fumbling on the wet ground, and managed to find the lighter. I returned it to the front pocket of my bag, putting the tobacco pouch inside and zipping the pocket shut. I took the deepest of breaths and slowly pushed open the gates of the cemetery. The gates let out the loudest squeak in the misty, rainy darkness of the night, and the sound seemed to echo in the abyss of gloom, with only the moonlight casting odd shadows of gravestones here and there along the soft, muddy pathway of the cemetery. I began walking slowly down the slippery, muddy pathway, glancing from side to side at the dark graves lined up in a neat row. Some of them had beautiful bunches of flowers placed in jars, while others were simply adorned with flowers left on top of the graves themselves. In the darkness, I could make out the odd grave that had shifted over time, tilting askew as it broke through the surface. I also noticed some very old graves that had been neglected, overtaken by weeds that had grown high and covered the stones, leaving the abandoned graves looking forlorn. It brought tears to my eyes and sorrow to my heart, thinking that at one point these were much-loved souls, now forgotten with time. It felt as though these individuals who once walked this earth, bore children, raised families, worked jobs, and had their own thoughts and feelings, had been erased from history. The occasional tree I passed swayed gently in the breeze of the icy winter wind, which felt significantly stronger here than on the streets outside. It also felt much colder in Westermill Cemetery. I continued my slow and fearful walk through the unending darkness of the graveyard, where the only light came from the moon. I was so deep into the graveyard that it was time to pull out one of the torches I had brought with me. I opened the flap of my bag and fumbled around for a torch I had already equipped with batteries. Once my hand found it, I pulled it out and slipped my hand through the small wrist strap on the back of the torch. I easily located the power button and pressed it. A burst of light illuminated the graveyard, revealing graves adorned with beautiful bunches of flowers. Yet, in this setting, they all looked ominous, as if I had stepped into a horror movie. Thoughts of zombies filled my mind, and I tried to stop myself from dwelling on these scary notions, reminding myself that not only was I scaring myself, but it was also disrespectful to the souls resting here. With my hands shaking, I held the torch in front of me and continued to walk slowly down the path. I thought to myself, a goth walking through a graveyard at night, how stereotypical. What a story to tell people. Will think I'm so brave for doing this. I'll be so cool. When I reached the end of the path, I found a large green island with finger posts indicating 5 different directions. I knew exactly where I wanted to go, straight up to the Golden Gates. Beyond the gates was a small archway leading to a section where ashes were laid to rest, set in a beautiful garden area filled with fruit trees and lovely rose bushes of many colours. I continued my walk straight ahead, with only the light of my torch and the moon as my only companion. On my way to the Golden Gates, where stunning rose bushes grew, I passed a few benches with plaques bearing names and a couple of bins. As I maintained a slow and steady pace, I began to see the Golden Gates leading to the archway, where ashes lay among the beautiful rose bushes. Suddenly, out of nowhere, I heard a loud snap, like someone stepping on a twig. "Ah!" I screamed, quickly turning around and flashing my torch all around me. But I couldn't see anything. I was panting heavily, and my heart felt like it was going to burst through my chest. I shook violently and fumbled for a cigarette, managing to light it while putting everything back into my bag without dropping it. After a few minutes, I gathered my composure and finished my walk up towards the gate. I approached the gates, feeling scared and still shaking, but I was determined to go through with this and capture some amazing videos. I placed my hand on the gate and pushed it open. The gate creaked loudly, almost louder than it should have, as I quietly walked through into the shelter of the archway which shielded me from most of the misty, sticky rain. I sat down on the white marble floor and leaned back against the wall of the arch, taking out my hot thermos of tomato and basil soup. I poured myself a cup. I leaned back, enjoying each mouthful, and once I was finished, I screwed on the lid and placed the thermos back in my bag. For a long while, I sat quietly and enjoyed a cigarette, remaining still as I had a sense that someone or something was nearby watching me. I opened my bag and pulled out my phone, ready to start taking pictures and filming some of the ancient graves. I sat with my phone on my lap, taking my last straw from my cigarette I was smoking. I reached into my side pocket and pulled out my metal tin, which served as a portable ashtray. A small gold disc featuring a picture of a Victorian lady walking along a country scene. I pressed the small button to open the lid and stubbed out the end of my cigarette, and then crossed the lid and closed it before placing the tin back into the side pocket of my bag. I reached down, grabbed my phone and picked up my torch, which was still glowing after taking my bag and slipping the strap over my shoulder. I took a deep breath. I then walked out of the Golden Gates and began a slow, nervous walk back along the path I had come. I made my way to the grassy island where the finger post stood quietly in the gloom of the night. I shone my torch at the top of the post to locate the ancient graves, which dated from 1700s to 1900s. As I looked up at the post, it indicated that the graves were situated at the far left of the cemetery. I pointed my torch straight ahead into the empty abyss of darkness and walked up the steep, straight path. It felt like a century before I finally reached the top of the hill and spotted a post with a red triangle marked 17/19, just like what I saw on the finger post that read Old Graves, 17/19 with the same red triangle. I turned around the short bend and walked for what seemed like a lifetime to the left before coming across an old 3-foot black metal fence with a small opening, just big enough to walk through. As I stepped through, I entered an area filled with ancient gravestones as far as the eye could see. I stood completely still for a good few minutes, just staring at all the gravestones in front of me that had been illuminated by the torch. Unlike the modern graves, these had no spaces in between. They were side by side, gravestone touching gravestone, with only a dirty, soiled pathway created by footsteps rather than a proper walkway. The smell of dampness and mould filled the air, and a dense, thick atmosphere added an extra layer of spooky gloom and sadness to this ancient resting place. A light fog seemed to envelope this part of the graveyard, not thick enough to impair my vision, but just enough to shake my nerves. An icy chill hung in the air, and a sense of abandonment filled my mind. A deep sorrow struck right at my heart, and I felt a tear run down my cheek for all these forgotten souls. As I looked at some of the gravestones illuminated by the light and the torch, I marvelled at their beauty. Some gravestones were rectangular flat stones resting upon the earth like a giant stone blanket laid on the grass. Others featured curved tops with a short rectangular shape, leading into the ground, where some were completely curved and others curved at the top. There were also graves shaped like rectangular boxes, topped with flat rectangular stones. A few tombstones had shapes resembling clouds, each adorned with intricate images. Some featured skulls and crossbones, while others were embellished with flowers or Celtic patterns. The names were carved with such elegance and sophistication. Some tombstones even had beautiful figures carved out in the stone, as if they were decorative ornaments. The souls resting beneath these stones were commemorated not only with their names and dates of death, but also with details about how they passed away, their ages and the names of family members. Many bore beautifully carved messages and quotations that lent these graves a deep emotional intimacy that modern gravestones often lack. Some of the stones were so old that they were worn smooth, with all names and information erased, leaving behind only grey stones with white splotches from centuries of being weathered and neglected. My mind wandered about what these people might have discussed regarding their lives the foods and drinks they enjoyed, and the precious family moments they shared. I considered the hardships they must have endured, especially during times of illness in an era with a severe lack of medical treatments that we have today. Conditions that we now regard as minor health issues could have been deadly back then. As I walked very carefully, I noticed by the light of my torch that some of the graves were open, a result of centuries of neglect and shifting earth. When I shone my torch towards the ground, I could see ancient coffins laid open to the world. I jumped out of my skin when I shone the light down and noticed not only the coffin, but that it had rotted away, exposing a skeleton dressed in a very old, tattered, yellowy dress. The dress had decayed too, with parts hanging like rags over the arms, waist and legs. My nerves were frayed and I felt an urge to run out screaming, but I took a deep breath and fumbled for a cigarette. I lit the cigarette, took a deep drag and carefully walked across the unstable ground towards a gravestone that read, "Here lies our beloved Eleanor Rebecca Oakley, born 1680 and died in 1700s, aged 20. Died of smallpox. Rest in peace, our dear Eleanor. May the angels wing you to your rest. Mother Catherine Grace Oakley. Father George Robert Oakley." I took out my camera and took a photo of this beautiful old grave, reminding myself how lucky we are to have a vaccination for smallpox, which has now become a killer of the past. The next grave I came to read, "Here lies our beloved son, George Thomas Garrick, born 1700 and died in 1719, aged 19. Died from falling in a well. Rest in peace, my darling son. May the well of God cleanse your soul, and may the angels bring you your peace. Mother Grace Isabella Garrick. Father James Henry Garrick." I took out my camera and captured a picture of the grave. After spending a good half hour photographing these sad yet beautiful gravestones, I switched to my night vision camera and began filming 1-minute shorts of the graves in the area. Eventually, I felt satisfied with the large collection of videos and photos I had taken. I found a lovely spot between two very old twisted trees, took a big gulp of water I had brought with me, and sat down to munch on one of the many snacks I had packed. As I enjoyed a cigarette, I noticed that time seemed to have stopped while I was there, although it felt like I had been there for a long time. I realised I had only just spent over an hour and a half. I placed the snack packet into my bag and continued to smoke my cigarette. My torch rested on my lap, shining straight in front of me. As I sat there, I looked around the area and noticed a strange orangey glow flickering in the distance. Suddenly, I felt an icy cold breeze whiz past me, and once again I heard that enchanting foreign voice from the past whispering, "Claire." I looked around, startled, but saw nothing. I began to shake and felt the urge to run, but I remained still and took out my ashtray to stub out the end of my cigarette. I stood up shakily and placed the ashtray into my bag, holding my torch. My legs trembling, I turned to the left where I saw the flickering orange light and began to walk slowly towards the glow. The misty rain started to fall heavier as I approached the light in the distance, and a deep, icy chill bit into my skin. I hugged my leather jacket tight around me and maintained this slow but steady pace. Suddenly, I heard a rustle and the snap of a twig. I looked around sheepishly, but continued my slow walk. Before I knew it, I was halfway to where the orangey glow was coming from, and I heard the faint cry of a violin in the distance. The tune sounded very much like a haunting melody, as if a siren were calling me to its orangey glow of doom. Yet it was so enchanting that it took away all fear, leaving only a longing to sway to its beautiful song, played by what I could only imagine to be a lost soul from the past. I continued my slow walk as the rain poured down, soaking every inch of me. The orange glow grew closer and closer. I felt anxious about what I might find, so I took out another cigarette and managed to light it despite the pouring rain. My friend the moon had suddenly disappeared, and all I had left was the light of my torch and its glowing light. Finally, I reached the orange glow that was emanating from the most Gothic yet beautiful mausoleum of the 1700s I'd ever seen. It was made entirely of solid black marble, topped with a statue of an angel. There were steep stairs leading up to it, flanked by beautiful vases filled with blood-red roses. Suddenly, I felt something brush against my back. Looking around, I saw nothing. Then I heard the voice again, whispering, "Claire, my dear, come into the warmth. Come in from the pouring rain, my dear." In an instant, a huge rumble of thunder filled the air, echoing for several seconds. A flash of lightning illuminated the graveyard, and for a split second, I swear, I saw a slender, tall figure with long hair holding a violin in the candlelight of this ancient mausoleum. I shook violently. I knew it. I thought I shouldn't have come. I felt that something was wrong. Oh, why didn't I listen to my gut feeling? Why? I was stuck where I stood. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. I wanted to scream, but no sounds would come out of my body. And my body felt like lead in the heavy pouring rain, terrified and helpless. Suddenly I heard the enchanting sound of a violin weeping in the distance. It was so sad and mournful, playing slowly with high notes that trembled, giving the sense of a ghostly wail. Its echoes surrounded me in all their haunting glory. Then all at once it switched to a bouncy, cheerful jig, producing long, skilled-sounding notes. I could only stand there listening in the pouring rain, entranced by its melodramatic tone. I could smell the dampness of the rain and mould. It grew stronger. An enchanting tone echoed through the air, engrossing me in its haunting melody. It felt as if the violin itself were telling the story of lost souls. The happiness before the sadness of loss arrived. It wept for the heartache that death brings, and the joys of life before the end of the human journey became a reality. I could envision the souls of the dead rising from their graves, dancing around the gravestones in an ancient ballroom-style dance. My imagination also pictured candles burning atop each grave near the gravestones. I could see lost souls of the ancient times wailing in tune to this beautiful music. Then it dawned on me. He was playing a piece by one of my favourite classical musicians, Paganini, the devil's violinist. I thought, he plays it perfectly, so beautifully haunting. All of a sudden, I heard a faint whisper, "Thank you, my dear." I jumped out of my skin. It sounded as if he had whispered his thanks in my ear. But again, I couldn't see him. How did he know that I was thinking that? I swear, I hadn't said anything. Yet he seemed to know what I was thinking. So many questions ran through my mind. In the darkness, I hear his voice whisper once more, "There will be much time to answer questions. But for now, I play your favorite Paganini piece, my dear human." I was frightened and couldn't respond, still unable to see him, only the sound of his angelic, soothing, foreign voice, which seemed to leave the feeling of a gentle caress in my inner ear. I heard him begin to play again, and my head swam with each note struck upon the strings of his violin. I felt weak all over, as if I were dizzy and about to fall. I felt as if I was plummeting into a black tunnel with nothing but this haunting melody in my ears. I slowly closed my eyes, and like you do when you're very tired. Well, before long, all I could hear was his playing. All I could feel was a sensation of falling through an endless tunnel in a drunken dizziness. The graveyard disappeared into nothingness. The sense became non-existent. Where was I? What was happening to me? I don't know how long I was lost in this trance, but I was jolted awake by the clap of thunder that filled the atmosphere, causing me to scream in horror. It was so loud that I felt every vibration through the ground, and I realized I was soaked to the bone. A flash of white lightning lit up the graveyard again, and I saw him standing there as before, violin in hand. But this time, he wore the biggest smile on his face. In that split second, our eyes met. I felt a sense of dread in my heart, knowing that something bad would happen to me tonight. His eyes glowed with a beautiful icy pale blue in the lightning's flash. His smile was incredibly charismatic and charming. I wanted very much to move closer to him, but my body had turned to stone and I still couldn't move. Another rumble of thunder crashed through the air, accompanied by a flash of lightning that illuminated the graveyard again. This time he stood on the top step in the pouring rain, without a violin in hand, only smiling with his eyes glowing as he did before. The storm grew wilder by the minute, and a strong wind picked up, blowing aggressively through the graveyard, rustling the leaves of the trees and creaking their branches with each gust. I stood there, eyes wide, mouth slightly agape, breathing quickly and breathlessly. Again, a loud bang of thunder resonated, accompanied by yet another flash of lightning. There he was, on the second step, looking as beautiful as before. I began to breathe so quickly, I felt like I couldn't catch my breath. The wind intensified into a heavy gale, and the rain poured down so heavily that it fell almost vertically, each raindrop stinging as it hit my unhooded head and bare hands. The downpour became so heavy that it started to blur my vision. Once again, the thunder became quick, fast and loud, while the lightning filled the whole place, this time with 2 flashes at once. The wind grew so strong that I could hear it knocking over vases, and an odd bunch of flowers rolled off of the graves that I could make out in the imminent flashes. Another bang of thunder erupted, and another flash of lightning illuminated the scene, revealing him at the bottom step, only inches in front of me. My heart raced so fast, it felt like it was going to explode. I felt a pressure rising from my chin, moving towards my nose and into my eyes. I could feel tears building up along with the blinding rain. I had no words for the fear I felt. It was so intense that I thought at any moment I would die right there from the terror in my soul. I sensed his presence, but could not see him, as everything was shrouded in darkness, and the wind howled like a banshee. I looked up and noticed the orangey glow from the mausoleum becoming brighter. I thought he must be lighting more candles, but I wondered why. Another tremendous rumble of thunder echoed, followed by a massive flash of lightning that illuminated the entire area. In that moment, I saw him standing before me, smiling with his icy pale blue eyes shining brightly. The wind grew stronger, trying to knock me off my feet. I looked up again and was able to see him clearly in the increasingly intense orange glow coming from inside the mausoleum. I looked up and saw that he had extended his arm. It looked so muscular and long, and his hand was held out, palm facing the sky, with his long, elegant fingers curved in a cup shape. His eyes were beautifully enchanting, glowing in the darkness with the orange light behind him, illuminated by intense flashes of lightning that filled the sky more rapidly than before. The almost vertical rain continued to pound on the ground, creating huge puddles. and soaking me to the bone. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to run, but I was too scared to move. The storm terrified me, and the thought of walking or running for an hour to get home was overwhelming. If he chased me, he would surely capture me. But a part of me longed to be embraced in his arms. What should I do? I just looked up, continuing to gaze into his eyes, admiring his patience as he kept his hand outstretched, wanting me to take hold of it. What did he want from me? What did he want to do with me? In the worsening storm, I reached out fearfully, shakily, and shaking like a scared little child. Slowly, I extended my hand towards his. It was as soft as a bird's feathers, like velvet, yet as cold as an ice cube. His grip was so strong that it caused no pain, but it caused a firmness I had never felt from a human. Our eyes never left each other's gaze. With legs so weak that I could hardly move, he gently pulled me closer, and together we walked timidly up the steps towards the entrance of the mausoleum. Before long, we stood at the entrance. He looked down at me, smiling, his eyes filled with compassion. He whispered, "Oh, mon chéri, you are drenched, soaked to the bone. You must be freezing cold. Come, mon chéri. Come into the warmth of my mausoleum. Come into the safety away from the raging thunderstorm. It's okay. Do not be afraid. It's safer in here than out there." I felt the tears fill my eyes as the fear became too much for me to bear. I stared into his eyes but found myself unable to form any words. He gave a small, playful laugh and said softly, "It's okay, mon chéri. I know you're thankful. Let me carry you over the threshold and into my warm, safe dwelling." I couldn't move. I stood frozen in place. I felt his long, muscular arms, one arm wrapped underneath my breasts, supporting my back, while the other cupped behind my knees. He lifted me with such ease, as if I weighed nothing at all. I felt his icy cold fingers grip firmly as he carried me over the threshold of the mausoleum. At that moment, a loud clap of thunder roared, and a flash of lightning illuminated the sky, striking the ground where I had just been standing. I clung to him tightly, scared for my life, and buried my face into his left shoulder as he carried me to safety. He carried me into his mausoleum and gently laid me upon the cool, cold ground. He knelt beside me, and we looked into each other's eyes again. "You were very lucky, mon chéri. Just a few seconds longer and you would have been hit by that fearsome lightning." I still couldn't speak, but I thought, "Thank you. You saved my life." "You're welcome, mon chéri." As I looked at him, I noticed he wore traditional 1700s attire. A white shirt with ruffled sleeves and a cravat. Navy blue breeches, white stockings and a navy blue waistcoat with a long navy blue coat patterned with golden shapes of fleur-de-lis. He also wore black shoes with a slight heel and a gold buckle on the front. His hair hung loose, reaching to his middle back, wavy and dirty blonde in colour. His eyes were an icy pale blue, glowing in the orangey light of the candles. They were wide and beautifully positioned, next to a delicately shaped nose, sharp cheekbones and distinctly shaped chin. His face was sculpted, resembling that of an angel. His skin was as pale as the silvery moonlight, with the perfection and smoothness of a porcelain doll. He looked flawless, appearing to be around 6'3" tall, and in his 20s. He had strong, muscular legs that could rival God, and his arms were equally strong and muscular. His waist was too thin to be human, yet it contained muscles that extended down his abdomen. His long muscular arms ended in elegant yet delicate hands, adorned with long fingers and nails that looked as sharp as razors. He truly was a sight to behold, exceptionally beautiful to the eye. I glanced to my left and saw the most beautiful black coffin, its lid removed. On top of the lid was a figure of an angel weeping, and the inside of the coffin was padded with royal purple velvet. A coffin fit for a king, I thought. In the far corners on both the left and right stood 2 tall black stands, each holding large thick pillar candles, burning with an orangey glow that I had noticed from a distance earlier on this night. In between the 2 stands with the pillar candles sat a huge chest, with the mesmerizing violin resting on top, its bow laying across the strings. The scent of the storm and damp earth filled my senses deeply, and for just a moment I forgot that I was most likely in danger. I looked back to see that he was still kneeling beside me. "You like my coffin? It does have a quaint charm, as you would say in these times," he said, with a playful laugh, softly reaching towards my face to avoid scaring me. I felt his elegant, long, icy, cold, velvet-like fingers rest gently against my skin as his thumb stroked my cheek slowly. For a brief moment, I lost all fear, comforted by his icy touch. The storm outside had not died down. Instead, it raged on with ferocious gales, loud rumbles of thunder, and persistent heavy rain. The lightning flashes had become violent, striking the ground repeatedly. As he stroked my cheek, a strange feeling washed over me. Suddenly, I experienced a deep, intense sense of calm, like a tumbleweed drifting through my mind. This sensation was followed by a profound feeling of soothing and comfort, as if I were lying in the safest, spongiest cloud. My body tingled from head to toe, and I found myself unable to move, only able to lie still while he continued to caress my cheek with his icy, velvety fingers. He had taken away my fear, but in its place I felt an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. He gradually stopped stroking my cheek and stood up, walking slowly towards the giant chest. As he opened the lid, I lay there mesmerized and unable to move, thinking, "Please don't stop. Please come back." You know, Claire, young women shouldn't be wandering through creepy cemeteries late at night. "I've indulged in eating many a young woman for less," he said, laughing softly, continuing, "Sadly, I don't have a bed, mon chéri, but I do have 2 fluffy quilts, some blankets, and a few plump pillows. I'll lay a folded quilt on the floor as a mattress, and the other quilt along with pillows and blankets, which should keep you warm, mon chéri. You're very cold, and I wouldn't want you to get sick, or even worse, catch your death, as they say." Again he laughed slowly, yet softly. "Thank you," I thought, still unable to speak. "You're very welcome, mon chéri. In good time you will speak from the mind to mouth. But for now, mon chéri, I understand more than you know. You have had quite the shock tonight. And of course, it is only natural you would lose the ability to speak words." He fumbled through the giant chest, pulling out the quilts, blankets and pillows. Still, a bit of chill in here, don't you think, mon chéri? He walked over to the far right, where 4 shelves were securely fixed to the wall, each filled with more than enough large pillar candles to illuminate his beautiful mausoleum. This created the atmosphere of a small house nestled in a creepy old graveyard. He added 5 more giant pillar candles to the 3 already lit on each side, so that each candle stand contained 8 candles, resulting in a total of 16 lit pillar candles. There we go. That should be enough to bring some more warmth, fit to comfort a human chilled to the very core. As more light illuminated the mausoleum, I noticed that the floor wasn't dirt after all. Instead, it was a strikingly beautiful blue marble that resembled vibrant sea waves. The inner walls of the mausoleum were the same black marble as the exterior. It was stunning, and it felt like lying in the ocean without fear of drowning. As I looked up into the night sky, the black marble walls around me came into focus. Laying on the floor, I noticed tiny silver specks embedded in the black marble, both on the walls and ceiling, giving the impression of stars. As I lay there looking up at the ceiling with the floor in view, I felt a deep sense of peace wash over me. I could almost feel my imagination taking me on a journey, as if I were floating on the ocean on a starry dark night. The silver specks in the black marble seemed to flicker like the stars, although I knew it was just a trick of the mind. What a remarkable trick, mon chéri. This was my vision for my peaceful dwelling, a sense of drifting down a tranquil, beautiful ocean of serenity. He chuckled softly, then turned around, gathering everything he needed as he walked slowly back towards me. He tossed pillows, blankets and quilts onto the ground in a messy heap, ready to create a makeshift bed for the night. He picks up the first quilt and lays it, folded onto the floor. I can't move, frozen to the bone and shivering in the raging storm, where light continues to strike the ground all around us. The rumbles shake the earth with their vibrations, the wind howling ferociously, and the rain pouring down heavier and heavier. He then places two pillows side by side and lays a second quilt over the top of the folded quilt, which is being used as a mattress. Next, he adds two thick woolen blankets that look heavy and warm. Finally, he places a thick padded blanket, black with fur gold leons, made from the softest material, which I believe is called velour, over the top. He folds back the top of the blankets and quilts a little, and as I turn my head to the side, weak from shock and soaking wet from the cold, this makeshift bed resembles a well-made bed. By the doorway of his mausoleums stand two thin black stands, similar to those holding the pillar candles, but these contained windproof essential oil burners. These are large oil burners, not like the small ornamental ones we place on a table at home, but big decorative ones, shaped in the likeness of the grieving angels. The angels appear as humans bent forward with their heads resting on their arms, placed on the ground, their backs curved and their wings drooping at the sides and soaring. In the middle of their backs is a huge bowl-shaped area where the essential oil is held to be burned. He walks slowly towards the four shelves that hold the large pillar candles, and on the middle shelf sat huge brown glass bottles with decorative labels containing the scents he enjoys. I turned my head towards the shelves and can make out the names on the bottles, but the labels on the two rows behind are obscured. There are 18 bottles in the front that I can see. The shelves are very long and spacious, capable of holding many items in a row. The scents I can read are as follows: rose, lavender, verbena, ylang ylang, jasmine, sandalwood, frankincense, violet, orange and pine, peppermint, chamomile, vanilla, cherry blossom, coconut grape, ocean breeze and woodland. On the left side burner, he placed lavender and lit the candle that was already sitting in the compartment. On the right side, he did the same, but used rose and lit the prepared candle. I think, mon chéri, I mixed the scent of lavender to soothe and relax the nerves, he laughed softly, referring to its nature as a sedative. I also chose the rose scent. Why, you may ask? I chose this because it symbolises God, Jesus, as a rose grows from his thorny crown. I also wanted to add an element of romance to this night of fright, he said, laughing joyfully. After lighting the candles for the oil burner, he looked over at me as I lay still, fearful and vulnerable. Concern washed over his face as he walked slowly towards me, so as not to cause more fear. He knelt down beside me and placed one arm around the back of my neck, by the shoulder bone, while the other arm wrapped around my waist, lifting me into a sitting position. Come, Claire, let us stand at the doorway and enjoy a cigarette. Do not be afraid of the storm. I am with you, and I will keep you safe. He helped me to my feet, and we slowly walked to the doorway. We both took out our cigarettes and lighters, lit our smokes, and took our first deep draws, savouring each puff as we smoked. I noticed he had his arm wrapped around my waist, holding me against his side, while the storm raged on. The heavy rain poured down, the gales howled and thunder crashed with lightning, striking the ground around us. We smoked our cigarettes, but it felt like they burned too quickly. Let me help you back indoors, mon chéri. You're very weak and tired after all the shock, excitement and scares of the night. I turned around slowly and he turned with me, holding me gently. However, something felt a little odd as we turned to walk back inside. He pressed his chest, abdomen and waist against my back seductively, and a tingle ran down my spine. As this happened, I wobbled and fell gently against him, feeling a rush of blood to my cheeks, knowing that I was most likely blushing. Oh, mon chéri, you lost balance. It's a good job. I am here to catch your fall. I suddenly noticed the side of his face was touching the side of my face. He sniffed gently at the nape of my neck. Your scent is intoxicating. Come, we must get you warm and comfortable. I fear sickness will behold you very soon if we do not act fast. You can sense this, I asked. Ah, yes, Claire, I can. He laughed softly and softly spoke. I told you your words would finally return to your beautiful rosy red lips. He helped me walk back to the spot where I had been before and gently assisted me in sitting down. I felt so exhausted from all the shock, fear and excitement that I had to lie back down. I didn't have the energy to sit up, let alone stand, so I lay back on the floor, turning my head to the side. I saw him walk towards the door. I thought, please don't leave me. I'm not leaving, sweetheart. I'm just closing one of the doors. And one of the glass doors, he replied. He pulled one of the giant black marble doors shut, and its creak was one of the loudest noises I had ever heard. At the bottom of the door was bark that screwed into the floor, which he tightened until the door was firmly shut. Next he took hold of the glass door behind the marble one. This door was also hinged, and had a hinged bolt at the bottom, and he screwed it tightly into the lock, into the floor. The right door remained open to the storm, but fortunately, no one and none of that heavy rain entered the mausoleum. Inside, the scent of lavender and roses filled the air. As he spoke, I felt a sense of sedation wash over me, a deep relaxation and calm that made me lie still. I was freezing, shivering. My hands felt numb, and my legs were weak to stand. I lay there wondering what was coming next. I heard a rustle and managed to turn my head to the other side, seeing him pull back the sheets and quilt further. I saw him walk slowly over to me, then kneeling down gently, placing his elegant hand on my cheek and stroking it with his slender fingers. Mon chéri, the makeshift bed awaits. But first, we must remove those soaking wet clothes. This must be very uncomfortable for you. My face turned red and my heart skipped a beat. Oh my God, he's going to take off my clothes. It made sense in one way, as the wet clothes were contributing to my feeling of coldness and could speed up sickness that may come from being cold and wet. But I didn't have any dry clothes to put on afterward. I couldn't lie here bare with all my skin exposed. I felt his icy cold velvety fingers stroke slowly and carefully from the top of my neck down to my collarbone. Every part of my body tingled. I would have gotten up to run, but I was so weak I couldn't move. Not yet, not yet, he whispered. I lay still, my heart pounding, and my neck feeling ultra-sensitive to his touch. He smiled warmly at me, then stood up and walked slowly to the mausoleum entrance. I heard a loud creak and a bang, and I knew without looking that he had closed the right door of the mausoleum. I heard the bolt squeak as he secured it into the lock in the floor. Shortly after, I heard the creak of the glass door as he locked that one too. I thought, oh God, I'm locked in. He has locked both doors, and I can't get up to run. I'm too weak. All I could hear now was the rumble of loud thunder and the patter of rain on the outer surface of the mausoleum. I was surrounded by an enchanting lavender and rose scent that made me feel weaker. And there was nothing but an orange glow filling the room. Don't worry, my dear, there is plenty of oxygen in here. It's like a house, but with graves surrounding it. This storm is one of the worst I've seen in many years. Closing the doors will keep you safe from the dangers of the weather outside. We'll also need to remove those wet coat clothes, so it would be nice to have some privacy from the world outside. No one really ever disturbs my resting place, but you can never be too sure someone might stumble upon it. Closing the doors will also help keeping the warmth from the candles. They provide both light and warmth. Now, be a good girl and lie still while I help you out of those wet clothes and into something warm. Rest, sweetheart. I shall be back. I have a secret room here that contains a bath, toilet, sink, and an altar for cooking. There are shelves full of fizzy drinks, water, coffee, and tea. In my cupboard, I keep wood for the stove, cleaners, towels, bath robes, and nightwear. I also store canned and packaged foods, snacks, first aid kits and medicine, including painkillers. Additionally, there are soaps for washing and deodorants, as well as cutlery, plates, bowls and cups. I have toilet rolls for bathroom use too. You may wonder how I managed to have plumbing installed in this secret room. There's even a pipe that leads outside through a wall, which releases soot and harmful fumes. Now, before I help you out of those wet clothes, and I do apologise for the wink, I'm sure you would like to use the toilet. Thank you, I whispered. You're welcome, sweetheart. He wrapped one arm under the back of my neck and the other around my waist to help me sit up. Once I was sitting, he helped me to stand. He wrapped one arm around my lower back and one under my bottom, lifting me with ease. I wrapped my legs around his waist, and he carried me to the left wall. There, an invisible black doorknob caught my eye. He pulled it, and a door opened, revealing the warm glow of burning firewood in the altar. He placed me down in front of the toilet, where I managed to do what I needed, and then got up to wash my hands. While I was in the bathroom, I could hear and see him filling an old kettle and placing it on the hob of the stove. The candles from the other room provided a soft glow, illuminating everything in the space, which had the same style as outside. I wasn't sure what he was making, but he poured the contents into a cup, holding my hand We slowly walked out of the room and back into the makeshift bed. He placed the cup down next to it, and I sat in the same spot as before. The door to the other room was still open, but I wasn't sure why. I saw him walk slowly behind me and sit down, parting both his muscular legs in the shape of a V. Elegantly, he wrapped his arms around my waist, gently laying his head on my shoulder. Such a beautiful, intoxicating scent she had. I felt a rush of blood to my face, and my cheeks turned red. He softly pulled me back, so my back was pressed against his abdomen. I could feel his lower body against my back as he nuzzled into my neck with his nose. My neck still incredibly sensitive to his touch, and in all my life I'd never felt as vulnerable as I did in that moment. He reached for the cup and placed it in front of me. Your comfort drink, the one you always come to when you need a hug. A cup of tea, sweetheart. 2 sugars and made with coconut milk. Thank you, I whispered. But how do you know this? It's part of my dark horse, Mon Chéri. I can read minds. My heart sank at the thought that he knew what I had been thinking of. Ah, yes, I did, my sweet little human. I drank the cup of tea slowly, and it was perfect. Before I knew it, I had finished the tea. He took the cup and set it down, at a good distance away from us. I felt his long, icy, velvety fingers softly tracing the spine of my back. It is time to remove those sodden wet clothes of yours. I wasn't sure about it, but I had nowhere to run, and I couldn't lie to myself. I somewhat wanted him. He reached out slowly, pulling up the bottom of my fluffy gothic jumper. Raise your arms up towards the ceiling, sweetie. Ah, good girl, he whispered. He tugged softly, and in a moment the jumper was removed. He soon made quick work of taking off my t-shirt in the same way, and now I felt even more vulnerable than before, sitting there in my bra and trousers. He turned me around softly, sitting me on his lap, with his arms wrapped around my waist again. He sniffed my neck as his elegant fingers made their way slowly down my spine and along the edge of the waistline of my leather trousers. His hand travelled lower, gently brushing past my lower tummy and onto the bottom of my leather trousers. His delicate hands made quick work of the zip and seductively rolled down the wet leather that stuck to my thighs. I could feel the sharpness of his glass-like fingernails scratch my thigh as he forcefully rolled the wet leather down my knee and over my foot. He leaned back and delicately had my head resting in the crook of his arm. As my body rests across his lap, he rolled the next leg forcefully as the leather didn't want to budge. It was as if it had become fused with my legs. He pulled the last leg over my foot. There I lay in nothing but my bra and underpants, shaking and vulnerable. It dawned on me, where have my boots gone? I don't remember. Sweetheart, when I carried you up the steps of the Mausoleum, you had fainted in my arms with your face pressed against my shoulder. Once I laid you on the floor, I took the liberty of unzipping and removing your boots. Your boots are sitting in a plastic tub in the secret room, in front of the clothes horse, with your socks straight over the top bar, drying in the heat from the wood burning in the altar. That's why the fire was already burning when I took you in to use the toilet, Mon Chéri. Thank you so much. You are very welcome. It seems you are quite enjoying sitting on my lap, no? I could feel my face turn red as the heat penetrated my cheeks, burning with great intensity. The rain was so heavy that even my bra and underwear became so wet it felt as though I had taken both of them off the washing machine and put them on without the aid of a dryer. As I sat there, I noticed the sensation of one of his arms resting underneath my breasts, his hand placed just below my shoulder blade. The other arm was wrapped around my waist, resting on my lower back. I could feel the side of his face against mine, so cold yet velvety. I sighed. The feeling was so intense that my head began to swim, and I felt dizzy. I guess that's what people refer to as steamy. Oh my god. No, it's a trick. It's a trick. I was so glad he was holding me, or I would have fallen to the ground. He laughed. I felt the icy cold velvety plumpness of his cheek pressed against mine. I know. I want you too, he whispered. Now, monsieur, I can see you are holding a cigarette, and alas, so do I. Let's go, and let me finish helping you to remove those uncomfortable wet clothes of yours. His hand traced tenderly up my spine towards a clasp of my bra, and skillfully with one hand he squeezed, and the bra became unhooked. He traced his long, delicate fingers towards my right shoulder and slid the strap down over my arm. I don't know why, but I allowed my arm to release from the strap. He did the very same with the left shoulder. I quickly pushed my chest against his chest, embarrassed at my bare breast being exposed. Very slowly his hand descended softly, gripping the band of my underwear. He lifted me by one arm gently, and with such ease and with a tight grip rolled my wet underwear down to my knees before resting me back onto his lap, where I was sat sideways, so that he could roll down the wet underwear off my legs and over my feet. I sat there red-faced, embarrassed. No, Claire, no shame. You are a beautiful woman. Very beautiful. He held me there, and the feeling of the utmost vulnerability washed over me. Oh, Claire, you make quite the mess. I bent my head down in shame, but with one of his long, elegant fingers he lifted my chin, so that our eyes met and whispered, no shame, monsieur. It is quite natural for such messes to occur when in the presence of your much-loved vampire. You know, the vampire you fell in love with aged 8? The one you built a small church-like altar in your wardrobe with a cobalt blue folder, with plastic sleeves containing pictures, information about me, my quotes I created, and lyrics to my music I made? If my jaw could have hit the floor, I think it would have. My God, my beloved Landry. Ja, mon chéri. It is your beloved Landry. I'm here. Now you can stop crying for me, fantasizing about me biting you. Oh my God, how do you know? Another dark gift of mine, sweetheart. I can hear when I rested your broken heart and your broken sobs. You pleaded to be tasted by me. Your overwhelming urge to be by my side, to be loved by me. I grabbed hold of him tightly, tears streaming down my cheeks, and he lifted his elegant, cold, velvet finger and stroked the tears from my cheeks before wrapping an ultra-soft hooded white robe around me. I gratefully slipped my arms through the armholes and just laid and wept with tears of fear, excitement and joy. His eyes met mine with such charm that I could only lie there, lost in our gaze. With his arms around my waist, he gently rolled me towards him. Now lying on my side, my head rested in the crook of his left arm as I buried my face into his side, still weeping. Come now, mon chéri. So many tears? If you continue, I may have to kiss them away. A warm sensation rose from my toes, flowing through my lady garden, my tummy, my chest and neck, finally reaching my cheeks, where I couldn't contain my blush. I lay there still weeping, thinking, I love you. I've always loved you. This feels like a dream. It can't be real. But it is real, mon chéri. It is very real. Come, sweetheart, he said. He lifted me effortlessly, and I parted my legs into a V shape so I could wrap them around his waist. Before I knew it, our foreheads touched, and we gazed deeply into each other's eyes, our noses brushing against one another. We stayed like that for a while, until he picked me up and carried me towards the mausoleum door. He sat me down and bolted the right glass door, followed by the mausoleum door. On the right, he pushed the door open just enough for us to step outside to have a smoke. I tied the strap of the rope tightly and pulled the hood over my head. He handed me a cigarette from his pocket and then took one for himself, lighting my cigarette before lighting his. The storm was intensifying rather than dying down. In the distance, I could see broken branches scattered across the graveyard floor, bunches of flowers blown everywhere, shattered vases and leaves swirling through the air like snowflakes. The lightning continued to flash, striking the ground, while the thunder clapped so loudly that it drowned out the howling wind. Rain flooded all the flat areas, but fortunately, the mausoleum was situated on the steepest part of the hill in the ancient section of the graveyard, keeping us safe from the flooding. I thought, oh my God, I was going to be stuck here all night filming. Would I have made it home safely, or would I have gotten injured or worse, dead? The damage all around us made it clear that this storm was seriously dangerous. I couldn't believe that when I had begun my adventure here, it had only been misty rain, with no signs of a storm in sight. The weather had forecast a cloudy, light rainy night. But then again, you can never trust the weather reports. Yes, my dear, this storm would most likely have killed you, but you are safe here with your vampire love, and there's no way you'll be going home tonight. I quietly muttered under my breath, I don't want to go home. I want to be with you. He smiled charmingly, and wrapping his arm around my waist, I leaned into him, and we continued to smoke our cigarettes. All of a sudden, there was a loud rumble, and in the distance, a long streak of lightning struck a vase. A huge bang echoed through the air, followed by the sound of shattering ceramic. It looked as if pieces flew through the air. Sweetheart, quick, into the mausoleum. I ran in, my heart pounding. He closed the right mausoleum door and secured it with a bolt. He quickly went into the secret room and returned with a step stool, which he placed in front of the door. Standing on the stool, I noticed he reached up to the top of the mausoleum doors where there were bolts with holes for screws. He screwed in the right bolt and then unscrewed the bolt to the left glass door. Shortly after, he shifted the stool and screwed in the left bolt as well. On the left wall, there was a black doorknob. He pulled it with moderate force, sliding his hand inside to yank out a large metal sleeper. He then pulled across the door the large sleeper and its large bar size. On the right side of the wall, there was another doorknob, which he pulled, sliding another bar into the wall with a loud click. He shifted the sword again, and in the middle of the bar, he pulled down two huge metal bars that fit into tiny holes located in the ceiling above the door. He stepped down from the stool and retrieved two bars from the bottom of the sleeper, screwing them into the floor. Afterward, he closed the left glass door and secured that into the floor too. Then he closed the right glass door, bolting it down as well. I just stood there and cried, I'm scared, I'm scared. Shh, sweetheart, everything is fine, you're safe. The doors are fully bolted, and you have warm food, drinks, a toilet, and a bath. Everything you need for survival. I am with you, mon chéri. I will keep you safe and sound as they think. Thank you, my dark angel, I whispered. He quickly scooped me up and carried me over to the makeshift bed. He pulled back all the blankets and the quilt and laid me down softly upon the quilt, with my head resting on a plush pillow. These pillows and quilts, along with the blankets, were nothing like my cheap, affordable ones. They were expensive, and you could really feel the quality and softness. It was incredibly comfortable. Wait there, sweetheart. I'm going to hang up your wet clothes to dry for you, he said. Thank you, I whispered. He gathered my wet clothes and the cup from earlier and quickly made his way to the secret room. After a short while, he returned, holding the cup and a bag of sea salt lentil chips. He closed and locked the door to the secret room, then brought the cup and chips over to me. You need to eat something and have a cup of heaven and mug, as you always call it. Your tea. Eat, mon chéri. You'll need the energy for what we will be doing together very soon. I quickly finished the chips, and the tea seemed to go down in a hurry. I realized I must have been quite hungry, as my stomach hurt, and I had a headache to go with it. He got up and walked over to the 4 shelves on the wall, which held essential oils and pillar candles, and on the top shelf, at the back, was a glass ashtray. He picked it up and brought it over. I do like to smoke outside, but alas, the weather is too bad. At times like these, I make an exception and have an ashtray prepared. Shall we have a little smoke before lying down for the night? Oh, please, I would like that very much. Thank you for the cup of tea and lentil chips. Ah, how polite you are, and you're very welcome, mon chéri. He placed the ashtray in front of us and passed me a cigarette. As before, he lit mine for his own, and as we sat smoking, we began to make small talk. Landry, my dark angel, doesn't the metal beam of the door with its huge metal rods connecting to the ceiling and floor disturb you? Why would that be, mon chéri? Well, it looks like a cross. Oh, sweetheart, only the vampires from the old Dracula story are afraid of these things. Like crosses, garlic, holy water, and a stake. None of these things cause death to a vampire, nor the silver. We are immune to such things, and I myself am quite fond of the great Jesus Christ. Don't look so scared, mon chéri. You know this. You've read all my books, all my adventures. I have, my dark angel. Well, you know me better than you think. But don't be fooled. I still have many, many more surprises to shock you with. You look cute when you're scared. Slowly, I reached out, stroking the side of my face and moving his tips of his elegant, long fingers down my chin, gently cradling my chin in his hand with his fingers resting on my cheek. He seductively and slowly ran his thumb towards my lips, holding his thumb at the center of my mouth, his skin as soft as satin. And my love relaxed. He turned my head slowly towards me, gazing deeply into my eyes, as if he could see into my soul. Gently, he let go and whispered, "Let's finish our smoke. I can't wait no longer." We stumbled, and then took the ends of our cigarettes and stubbed them out into the ashtray, and he placed it at a good distance away from us. "What do you mean you can wait no longer?" I asked. "Wait no longer for what, my dark angel?" "You will soon find out, mon chéri," he replied. Slowly, he reached around my waist, gently pulling me towards the pillow. Before I knew it, I was laying down. and he was next to me, with his arms still around my waist. He gently removed his arm and whispered in a quiet fright and excitement of tonight. You neglected to notice one thing in this room. I looked at him in silence, my eyes filled with love. What could that be, my dark angel? I whispered back. Look up towards where the chest sits, where the two stands are on each side. Look a little further out and see what hangs on the wall above the chest. As I lay back on the floor resting on the pillow, I slowly tilted my head back, my eyes rolling up towards the ceiling, and then travelling down the wall where the chest sat. On that wall hung a 6-foot-long and 6-foot-wide gold cross, featuring a lifelike statue of Jesus Christ. At its centre, it was shockingly beautiful to behold, breathtaking as I gazed at it. This is what I saw. I saw the gold cross with Jesus in the standard crossbones. His head was bent forward with dark brown hair. He wore a thorny crown, green with the standard just off white thorns from the front of the crown, and a blood-red rose grew through the thorny crown. The face, as well as the rest of his body, was a dark honey-coloured brown. My eyes travelled further down, blood streaks dripping from the crown and down his forehead. The face of Jesus had closed eyes, his cheeks sunken into his face, with protruding cheekbones. His mouth was a little agape and gave the perfect picture of pain and suffering. Underneath his closed eyes, streaks of blood ran down his face. As I looked further down, the figure of Jesus on his cross had his arms out. His arms were lightly muscular, with perfectly detailed hands, showing silver nails piercing through palms. As I looked down from the chest, the ribcage looked prominent, showing every rib bone, and the tummy looked flat, as if it had pressed itself into his back. His waist had a small off-white rag-like loincloth covering for modesty. His legs were lightly muscular. Scratches with reddened colour covered his legs, and the feet were nailed together with toes carved with great detail. This was the most detailed, accurate-looking crucifix I'd ever seen. It looked so lifelike, as if it could come to life and speak at any moment. It looked so lifelike. I know, monsieur. I let my eyes return to the centre instead of looking upward, and slowly turned my head to the side. There he lay on his side, resting on one elbow with his head cradled in the palm of his hand. He was shirtless, and his muscular chest and usually thin waist were bare before me. Come closer, monsieur. Nervously, I moved closer to him. He lay down on the makeshift bed and turned his head to his side, gazing deeply into my eyes, as he had before. He stroked my cheek, cupping my chin in his hand and running his thumb up the centre of my mouth. He held his thumb there for a short while, gazing into my eyes with his pale, icy stare that had me mesmerised. I felt weak from his touch. An intense sense of vulnerability washed over me once again. My eyes never left his gaze. It felt as if I were locked in his gaze. My body felt paralysed, unable to move. His skin felt like satin against my soft human skin. With my chin cupped in his hand, and his thumb resting gently over the centre of my mouth, I felt him move his head to the side of my neck, sniffing me softly. Oh, there's nothing more erotic than the softness of skin, the scent of skin, and yours is intoxicating sweet. I felt the icy cold, wet, velvety tongue slowly and with light pressure slide from the nape of my neck up to the top of my neck. Make me fast. I shivered from the erotic sensation, yet a little was fear as I knew what he meant. He wanted to eat me. What I would give to taste you, mon chéri. As I lay there shivering from lust, I felt his long, slender fingers slide down my body, slowly reaching the top of my thigh, to the base of my knee, slowly squeezing and caressing my thigh, slowly and seductively. He slid his hand over to my inner thigh, delicately rubbing his hand up and down my inner thigh, caressing slowly, moving his long, elegant finger up until his icy satin feeling fingers were spread, caressing my thigh. His thumb went to work, caressing the inner crease between my thigh and the outer area of my labia. I gently slid my fingers along his spine, where I began to make swirling and circular patterns with my fingertips. Oh, mon chéri. My left arm lay limp across the nape of his neck, and my hand rested softly, fingers spread across his shoulder. Suddenly, I felt his satin plump lips press firmly to my mouth. He held my lips in between his lips for a good few seconds before the most passionate kisses began. He kissed so slowly, gently biting my bottom lip, every so often sucking it into his ice-cold mouth, before ever slowly rolling his upper lip over my bottom lip, releasing my lip gently, slowly. I felt a hard, deep, erotic pressure down below and side out. Wrapping my arms around him tightly, pushing my mouth firmer against his mouth, lightly scratching my nose on his back, in the intense heat of the uncontrollable desire that built inside me. He whispered, "Oh, mon chéri, you want it just as bad as I do." I blushed hard, and the brightest of red, I whispered, "Yes, my dark angel, I do." Well then, let us make the love, mon chéri. Do not worry, my love, I am dead. I cannot make you pregnant. I don't care. I love you. Take me, my vampire love. I am yours for all eternity. Be careful, my dear. I may keep you for all eternity, and that's a very long time. I always said I would die for you. I would gladly give up my world to be able to love, to be with you. You're everything to me. You're not just the one I love. You're my Saint Landry, my vampire Jesus, my universe. Well, let's wait and see what happens with you, my love. But for now, come here. Your vampire wants you. Yes, master. Mon chéri, you know how I like to be with love. Suddenly he gripped hold of my lips in his mouth, kissing hard and passionately, as he ran his fingers softly up my legs and slid 2 fingers deep inside me. The deep, erotic pleasure down below deepened and became more intense as his fingers went to work, caressing the inner part of my labia. A deepened heat filled me, and I reached out, gripping tightly around his back, nails biting into his velvety soft skin. Oh, mon chéri. Oh, master. Yes, yes, my love. Call me master. Yes, my master. That's it, my love. Yes, I am your vampire master. He began to pump his fingers deeper and harder into me. I felt the liquid of blood leak from inside me, ashamed a little. Do not be ashamed, my love. It's perfectly natural. I closed my eyes in sheer ecstasy, mouth agape a little. Master, mon chéri. Shortly, I felt an intense pressure pressing against the opening of my lady garden, and felt the hard thrust of his love enter me. I began to tremble with desire, with passion. My nails dug deeper into the velvety flesh of his back. Oh, master, oh, mon chéri. Suddenly the world disappeared, and all I could see was him holding me, making love to me. I felt us rolling around on a makeshift bed. I'd lost all perception of sound and thought, just feeling this deep, intense pressure, feeling my head tilt back, feeling him pounding his piece as if it was a machine piston, endlessly pumping. He was pumping harder and harder, his sweat delicately dripped onto my skin, which felt so right. We were both lost in the love and passion. Our sounds of love echoed amongst the walls of his mausoleum. Suddenly my heart beat too fast, and the heat was so intense I burned so hot. I thought I would burst into flames. I felt his body grow stiff, like solid stone. I felt a burst of love fill my insides, and I too grew stiff all of a sudden. It felt like my heart stopped and my body seemed to go into a seizure of pure, intense, uncontrolled pleasure. I felt like I died in his arms, but it was okay. It felt so good, and I loved him so very much that I wanted this, that I gave complete surrender, complete power and control over to him. Feeling uncontrollably vulnerable to him was the most heavenly feeling I had ever felt. Suddenly reality came back to me and I opened my eyes. There he lay, red, glistening in sweat that looked as if it had small amounts of blood mixed with it. His hair was dishevelled, but it looked so sexy to me. He lay there with the biggest of grins upon his face, and I lay limp and weak, with my head resting upon his chest, panting heavily. I looked up and gazed into his eyes, as we continued to peer into each other's eyes and whispered, I love you. I replied, I love you, Landry. We kissed slowly, and then just lay there cuddling for a while. My dear, he asked, sliding the ashtray towards me and holding a cigarette. As we smoked, we talked for a while. You know, I could keep you in my arms forever. I wish you would, my dark angel. I never want to leave you. He smiled with the biggest grin, and in that split second, I swear I saw fangs, but I wasn't sure. You are like no other girl I've ever met. You're unique, intelligent, and you have a central charm about you. I blushed. You don't disappoint me, my dark angel. You are everything I've ever imagined, and more than I could have dreamed. Does my cold skin not bother you? No, my angel, I like it. My glowing eyes don't scare you. No, my angel, they're beautiful to me. My pale skin is revolting. No, my angel, your skin is delicious to flesh. My too thin waist doesn't send shivers down your spine. No, my love, I love you for who you are. It doesn't matter what you look like. It's not your looks that I fell in love with. I fell in love with your intelligence, your great sense of humour, your curiosity for things, your musical talent, your wisdom and adventurous spirit, and your cheeky defiance. You could be the ugliest man in the world and I'd still love you. I'd still want you. Oh, mon chéri, you seal your fate with me. There will come a time when your fate will be revealed to you. But for now, do not dwell on this, as it is not yet my time. In due time, everything will become clear regarding your fate. And when that moment arrives, you will face the hardest decision of your mortal life. Enjoy this moment of bliss, my love, as I haven't finished with you. There is more pleasure to come, pleasure beyond your wildest dreams. Alas, there must be pain. I gulped hard, knowing what was coming. I will not kill you, as I want to keep you. I love you, but I cannot resist my urge to taste you no longer. Do not be afraid. After the pain comes, it will last perhaps a few minutes, maybe more. But the pleasure will overtake the pain you feel, and you won't want it ever to stop. I felt the overwhelming sense of fear build inside me. My heart as if it had turned to stone, and butterflies filled my tummy. I began to feel like I was sweating. Dizziness gripped hold of me. My head began to pound with a light headache. The dizziness became more intense. My heart sank as if it was sinking into my gut. Dizzy, so dizzy. Can't stop the dizzy. Fear, sheer fear, beheld me. All of a sudden, I felt like I couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath. Tears filled my eyes, but none fell from them. All of a sudden, the world began to spin. It sped up faster and faster. I felt like I was suffocating. All of a sudden, darkness fell upon me. Claire, sweetheart, Mon chéri. I felt a gentle, icy cold tap on my cheek. Landry. It's okay, baby. It's okay. You fainted. It's not unexpected, as this is not normal love for a human being tasted from the very essence of yourself. To be loved on such a deep spiritual level, and the thought of being eaten is so horrifying it could make the heart stop immediately. But rest assured, it is the most intense, intimate, spiritual, and most pleasurable of all the loves this world can offer you. I know it's tough, but please put your trust in me. I want to love you as only a vampire can. I will tell you, sweetheart, and I will talk you through everything that will happen and how it will feel. And then you will experience the kind of love every mortal desires. Yes, only a few will ever feel to live to tell the tale of the vampire's love. I gripped him tightly. I'm sorry. I love you, but I'm scared. So scared. It's okay. I understand. The human fear of death. Pain is terrible for a human. It's your warning to save you from unhealable injury. But no injuries will come. I can heal your wounds once I'm done. Loving you. Penetrating that delicious, beautiful, delicate neck of yours with my thigh. Why don't I make some coffee? And we have a nice smoke. And I sit and tell you all there is to know about the vampire's kiss. Landry kissed Claire passionately before standing up and walking towards the doorknob that sat to open the door of the secret room. Landry entered the room, walking over to the little sink and filling the old tin kettle with its sharp whistle. That whistle's once the water has boiled inside it. He then placed 3 teaspoons of coffee powder into the cup with 2 teaspoons of sugar, just as Claire likes her coffee. It is so strong that it can wake the dead, or you could stand the spoon from it. Landry stirred the contents in a cup before washing the spoon and walking out of the room, closing the door with a cup of coffee in his hand. He walked over to Claire and placed the cup in front of her, taking out a cigarette from the packet and handing it to her, lighting a cigarette before lighting his cigarette, which he removed for himself. Okay, are we all comfortable? Then we shall talk about what's about to happen very soon. Drink your coffee first, my love. It'll help wake you and comfort you as we speak of the pleasures of the vampiric kiss. Landry passed me the hot cup, steam swirling into the air, and the rich aroma of coffee filling my senses. He paused for just a short moment to plant the softest of kisses on my forehead, before handing me a cigarette along with his own. He was a true gentleman, lighting my cigarette before his. He pulled the ashtray closer as he sat beside me, his arm wrapped around my waist. Sides leaned closely together as we engaged in small talk before discussing the more important topic, the vampire's kiss. Landry began. Claire, my dear, which authors do you enjoy reading? I asked, because I found a book in your bag that is drying nicely. and I think we may have saved your precious book. Thank you so much, my dark angel. I would be lost without it. It's my favourite Dickens story, Oliver Twist. Ah, yes, I too am quite the fan of Charles Dickens. Claire felt her eyes light up and thought, finally, someone I can connect with, who understands the genius of this remarkable writer. You know, Claire, he was quite the famous author in my year. But alas, nowadays he's often viewed as problematic. By modern standards, there are concerns about his perceived sexism towards women. However, we must consider that in his time, women were treated as second-class citizens, with very few rights or access to education. Such behaviour was unfortunately common among men back then. I'm not excusing that behaviour, but I believe it's important to recognise the context of the era. I feel truly blessed to have the freedoms we enjoy today. It must have been so oppressive back then. It was, my dear. So, my dear, what other authors are you into? I really like Edgar Allan Poe. Ah, yes, The Raven and The Telltale Heart. They are such amazingly short stories and poetry of the macabre. Did you know he was born on January 19, 1809 and died in 1849 at the age of 40? That was quite the age to look back in my time. Most never made it past 20. Did you also know he was influenced by one of your favourite authors, Charles Dickens? Claire sighed with love. You amaze me. Ah, yes. I was a young vampire then. I loved his writing. Such gothic, as you would call it, in his modern times. What others do you like, my love? Well, I've always loved William Shakespeare. One of my utmost favourites, must be honest. Yes, my angel, such beautifully written plays and Shakespeare. Your favourite, my dear, Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet. Did you know that the most used saying in this modern time was quoted by William Shakespeare? Quotes and sayings such as, a hot gun, knock knock, who is that? All that glitters is not gold. Break the ice, green-eyed monster, when your heart on your sleeve. The world is your oyster, wild goose chase, cruel to be come what may. You could say we helped form the English language as we know it. He was a genius, Landry, my love. So he was, my dear love. Come, who else do you know? You have me captivated by your literature taste. I always really liked Bram Stoker. Ah, yes, the famous Dracula, my dear. The story captured the human imagination and aided the love of vampires with the passion and desire to feel as well as to love a vampire, but also a story of the truth of a man called Vlad the Impaler who impaled his victims. It was said he dipped his bread into his victim's blood. How deliciously savage they were. Did you know that Bram Stoker was born in 1847 on the 8th of November? He was Irish and came from Dublin. The Gothic novel Dracula set the scene for many a Gothic novel written in the name of the vampires. The vampires should thankfully for making us both famous and desirable to the human populace. It aids in our ability to catch an easy meal. Landry laughed cheekily. Oh, Landry, you are naughty, but I love you so much. And yes, I can so agree. Bram Stoker did help the vampire to become so popular amongst us humans, as now we desire to know how it feels to be eaten by the dead. be loved by the dead. Come here, my love. Landry reached around Claire's waist, pulling her closer. So their eyes met in a blaze of passion. He sat Claire on his lap, stroking her cheek lovingly. Before long, their lips locked, and they kissed passionately for what felt like an eternity, filled with love. Claire buried her face into Landry's neck and cuddled him for a while. The coffee is gone, my love. Now we should address the more pressing matter of explaining the vampire kiss to you, before I share the most spiritual and intimate love with you. Well then, my love, let us begin. Landry turned Claire around so she was sitting on his lap, her legs wrapped around his waist, and his arms holding her securely against it. Landry started to speak. The kiss we're talking about is the kiss of love. Unlike a bite meant for nourishment, this kiss is more passionate and is shared with greater tenderness. The first thing you can expect is this moment. To start, I shall kiss passionately and gently on your cheek, and kiss slowly up and down your neck for a little while. This will cause your neck to become extra sensitive to my touch, and for you it causes a deep sense of sweetness, leaving you so very vulnerable in my arms, allowing you to gain control over your bodily movements. I will begin to hold you in a cradled position in my arms, your head resting in the crook of my arm, as your body lays flat across my lap, and this will aid to the feelings of vulnerability, yet draw in a sense of human comfort to you. I will gaze deeply into your eyes, locking our gazes together. I will then mentally whisper words of comfort and compassion, words that instill a sense of peace and safety in your mind. You will soon realize that you feel paralyzed. Fear may wash over you, but my words of comfort will bring you peace, rendering you entirely under my control. Slowly, I will lift you until your head is resting upon my shoulder. You will suddenly feel my ultra-soft lips brush the skin of your neck. Again, you will feel a strong feeling wash over you, but I will have you in my complete control. Next, you will feel the prickle of my fangs upon the outer part of your neck, and you will shudder softly. This tells me your body is ready for my immortal kiss. I shall then just hold you for a good many seconds, allowing you to feel the full benefits of the feeling, excitement, and ultra-sensitivity encasing you in all its proper power. After this, I shall gently place my lips upon your neck, tenderly kissing you from the bottom to the top of your throat. The prickle of my fangs will be felt. You will soon feel the sharp piercing of my fangs as they enter your flesh and muscle, as my fangs slowly and softly press towards your jugular vein. Those delicious jugular veins connect to the source of your very living essence. Sorry, Michelle. My thirst is becoming quite strong, as you can hear. Anyhow, where were we? The pain will be sore for a while, but not too uncomfortable. A sense of hotness, then ice-coldness, before a sense of a comfort, warming sensation. Once I reach the jugular vein, you will hear a loud snap, then a sound a lot like the sound of a twig breaking, being stepped on, broken in half in the silence of an empty woodland. You will cry out in pain, as this, my love, is the most painful part. For a minute, maybe two tops, the pain will consume you. But shortly you will feel the pressure of my lips, of my immortal strength, pushing, pressing firmly around the wound of your neck. Soon you will feel a sense of relief from the pain, and shortly after you will feel the hot, ice cold, then the warm feeling you have felt before. You will feel great pressure and pleasure as the first draw of your essence floods over my soft lips, where your essence will generously fill my mouth, feeding my desire to taste you. The first roar I will take will sting, causing you to and then when I take the second roar from you will feel such deep pleasure as I draw very slowly and passionately from you. Suddenly you will regain control over your body movements and will grip me intensely. We will begin to roll around, locked in each other's arms in passion as I drink from you. It'll feel so good to you that you will want to push your throat against my mouth as I drink it. Shortly, you will begin to feel pain again and wish it would stop. For a few minutes, you will have to endure the pain. Then I will let go of you, laying you gently down on the bed. You will not want this feeling to stop. And as you lay there, you'll feel so good, so full of pleasure. You'll feel so tired yet satisfied. Most of all, my love, you will feel so full of love. My love, this is the final domination of the life, which will leave you craving me. Oh, sweetheart, you look so afraid. Do not be scared, my love. This immortal act of love from me to you will seal our bond of love for all eternity. No harm will come to you, only the utmost love from the depths of my darkened old immortal heart. Inside the mausoleum, an inviting room filled the space, along with the ever so beautiful scent of rose and lavender. The candles were a quarter burned, and gave off such a charming, mysterious, comforting orangey glow that gave the sense of a home-like feel of peace and tranquility. Landry held me like a baby in his ever-strong immortal arms. I felt so safe, so warm, so very comforted. I felt like nothing could ever hurt me, and not even death could touch me whilst he held me in his embrace. I love you so much, Landry. I love you so much, Green. Don't ever let me go. I'll never let you go, my human love. You must never fear me, my love. I will never hurt you. My love for you is the purest of love, just as I know your love is of the purest towards me, my love. This is just the beginning of many more adventures, nights of passion to come, mon chéri. I can't wait to see what else you have in store for me, my immortal love. Aren't you glad you went out on this dangerous night and stumbled upon my resting place? I am now you can be with your beloved vampire as you always dreamed. I felt as if I were finally home. Landry's arms are my home. I felt so content, so happy, that I began to cry with over a drop of water. He softly lifted me, and I buried my face into his chest. We cuddled, snuggled for what seemed an eternity. Everything around me disappeared, and I became lost in this spiritual feeling of being connected to him, becoming one soul instead of two souls, wandering endlessly to find their missing part. I found my missing part, I thought. Finally, I found a missing part in me. I love him. I love him. I love him so much. He looked down with a charming, emotion-filled smile, and a glow of pure love in his eyes. Yes, my love, you have. So have I found my missing part. Who knows, I may keep you by my side forever. Claire looked at shocked, yet smiling. Be careful what you ask of me, my vampire love. I won't say no to you. Ah, my human love, your life's journey, I believe, is mapped out for you. And perhaps being with me is your fate. It is most likely the way your life is to be. Stay with me, to be held by me, to be loved by me. I hope so, my grandparent love. You will find out very soon what is to become your life's journey, your fate, if you will. As we lay there snuggling in his mausoleum, the wind outside howled like banshee. The beautiful yet eerie sounds of a persistent heavy rain battered the roof with an intense echo, and vibrations felt along the ground. The loud rumbles of thunder gave a creepy horror-like vibe, adding to the beautiful atmosphere inside the mausoleum. All of a sudden, the loudest crack of thunder rumbled through the air. Shortly after, Landry and I heard a loud crack, creak, and electrical sound, mixed with the loudest snaps I'd ever heard. Suddenly, there was a huge bang that sounded like a bomb exploding. "Ah!" I screamed, jumping out my skin. "Stay there, my love, don't move." "Yes, my love," I whispered as I sat shaking, heart beating so fast it felt like it would explode. "It's okay, baby. I will see what has happened." Landry made quick work of unbarring the door and unbolting the glass door and made the mausoleum clear, pulling it open quickly and wide enough for me to see. About 15 feet away lay a 3-foot-long tree branch lying on the ground beside a grave burning in the flames. Landry dashed towards the wall where the secret doorknob sat. He pulled the doorknob, rushed inside, and quickly came back out with the white plastic tub that held my boots. He had filled the tub with water and without hesitation ran out the door towards a burning branch, throwing the water onto it. Though I couldn't see much, I could make out a faint, shadowy figure lunging forward in the distance. Within the blink of an eye, he was standing at the doorway with the tub in hand, the 3-foot branch he had placed inside the tub. He had made quick work of bolting down the mausoleum door, along with its glass doors, and replacing the large sleeper barring the screws fixed into the floor. "I'll be back, my love." "Okay, my love." He hurried into the secret room with the tub and the branch. I could hear a bump as he placed the branch on what I assumed was a table, and I recognised the sound of the plastic tub being set back down on the floor. I also heard the sound of the tab as water gushed from it. The sound echoed along the walls in a loud rush sound. "It'll be out in just a minute." "My love, my human love," Landry shouted. "Okay, my love, no worries," Claire shouted back. Landry had seemed to be in the secret room for a while, but he soon returned with a cup of tea and a warm vegan pasty filled with all different types of vegetables, vegan cheese and vegan-style bacon. "Thank you so much, my love." "You're very welcome, my cherry, amour. It's delicious, my love." "Ah, I am so glad you like it, sweetheart. I'm sure you'll be just as delicious." "Oh," Claire blushed. "Thank you, my love." "You're very welcome, sweetheart." "Come, feed, mon chéri, as I can't wait any longer." "Yes, my love." Claire munched down the pasty in a hurry, and before long, both the pasty and the cup of tea had been drank and eaten. Landry got up and walked to the secret room. Claire could hear him wash the cup and the plate, which he placed back into the cupboard after washing and drying each piece of crockery. Landry came back into the room and sat beside Claire, arms wrapped tightly around her. "Shall we have a last smoke, my love, before I begin to taste your essence, to fill you with my love, but to fill you satiate my hunger?" Claire was terrified, yet she was ready to feel her vampire kiss of eternal love. She longed to become one with him, to seal the endless bonds of love, and to give herself completely over to him, heart and soul. Landry opened the packet of cigarettes and handed one to Claire. As always, he lit her cigarette first before lighting his own. Both of them sat together smoking and listening intently to the storm outside, cozying up with cigarettes in hand. For a while, Claire and Landry smoked their cigarettes. Landry then turned her around to face him and held her tenderly, stroking her hair. Suddenly, Claire began to feel the ultra-soft kisses slowly trail down from the top of her neck to the nape of her neck. Landry did this for several minutes before softly and gently running his tongue from the nape of Claire's neck to the top of her neck. Her neck, as he described, felt ultra-sensitive to his touch. Claire shuddered in anticipation of the prickle of the fangs that was to come. In Claire's thoughts, she wondered, why did my vampire bring that branch inside? Mentally, she heard her vampire love whisper, "It's a surprise, my love. Now clear your mind while showing, and do not think of anything. Just allow the pleasures to wash over you. No thinking, no thoughts, my love, just feeling." "Yes, my vampire love," Claire sighed passionately, and gave all power and control over to her beloved Landry. Claire felt limp in Landry's arms, but it didn't matter. Suddenly Claire felt the sharp prickle of the fangs and the pressure as they pierced her flesh and began to drive deep into the muscles of her throat. "Ah!" Claire screamed out mentally. Landry whispered, "Shh, my love, it's okay. The pain will ease very soon." Claire began to feel a searing heat in her throat. A lukewarm feeling soon followed after the ice coldness, which stung her throat. Claire couldn't move. She was paralysed in her vampire's arms. Claire cried out, "Ah! Ouch! Ouch! Ah!" As the fangs hit her jugular vein, as the sharp fangs pierced her jugular, then came a massive snap and crunch that could be heard echoing along the walls of the Mausoleum. All Claire could do was lay helplessly in the arms of her vampire love. Again she felt the searing heat, followed by the ice-cold sensation, and then the lukewarm feeling returned. Claire felt the sudden sensation of intense pleasure upon her neck. It was firm yet pleasant, as it helped to ease the immense pain she was feeling in her throat. Landry continued to communicate with Claire through her thoughts, reassuring her, "Claire, my love, the pain will end soon. Endure this discomfort just a little while longer, and you will soon experience the intense pleasure of the vampire kiss." "Yes, my vampire love, my vampire angel, my love," Claire spoke from her thoughts to his mind. "Shh." The pain of the first draw was so very painful that it had Landry's Claire cry out again in pain. Then the second draw of blood from Claire to Landry's mouth felt so pleasurable. This feeling persisted for a while, and soon Claire experienced pleasure beyond her imagination. It was an indescribable pleasure, like nothing else felt on this earth. It was on a spiritual level. I sighed, and I heard my dark angel sigh in response. I held on to him tightly, as we thrashed around on the makeshift bed, caught up in the heat of passion. I felt a deep spiritual connection. I sighed. Yeah, I heard him say. I pushed my throat deep against his fangs. "Ah!" I cried out, but it didn't matter. It felt so good. The mix of intense pleasure and pain. I wanted so much more. It was true. I didn't want this feeling to ever stop. "More," I sighed. Through my mind, I heard my dark angel whisper, "Yes, my love." I dug my nails into him, which caused him to suck, to drink more intensely, and it felt like an eternity of us wrestling around the makeshift bed. Before long, I started to feel deep, intense pain again. Before I knew it, Landry let go of me, laying me softly down on the ground. Ah! I cried out. Landry laughed with great cheek and joy, and I laughed very hard at the strange noise that came from me after he had let go of me. I felt very weak after, and with a sense of deepened peace in myself, Landry laid me down gently on the ground, and then I turned my head weakly to the side, noticing that the pillows and blankets and quilts had been flung all across the room. Wow, my human lover, you quite enjoyed my bite, did you not? The quilts, blankets and pillows have been scattered all over the mausoleum. He laughed cheerfully. It feels just as good as the aftermath of my bite, doesn't it? You'll feel such a deep and yet peaceful sensation wash over you. But be careful, as you'll feel very dizzy afterward. It will be hard to walk. I'll be here to help you. Landry picked Claire up, carrying her to the secret room, where the door was still open. He placed her down in front of the toilet. You must need the toilet, my man. Now, you take care of your human bathroom business while I remake the makeshift bed. Yes, my immortal love, whispered Claire weakly. Landry was humming an old tune as he sauntered over to one of the cupboards in the secret room. He opened one of the cupboard doors and pulled out 2 clean pillowcases, 2 clean quilts, and 3 clean blankets, along with a see-through bin bag that had hardened yellow handles. I shall be back shortly, my love. Okay, my immortal love. Landry waltzed out of the secret room and back into the main room of the mausoleum, holding all the blankets, quilt covers, pillowcases, and bin bag in hand. As Claire went to the bathroom, she could hear the rustling of the bin bag along with the tapping of feet across the marble floor. Claire could hear the sound of material being rustled, scraped, and palmed. Claire was able to catch from the corner of her eye Landry replacing the rose and lavender oil into the burners and relighting the candles that sat underneath the burners themselves. Before long, Claire got up and flushed the toilet, making her way to the sink to wash her hands. Landry was so right. She felt so dizzy. It was as if the world was spinning too fast to stand. Shakily and carefully she made her way to the sink and washed her hands. Landry soon re-entered the room. He was holding the plastic bag, containing all the old quilt covers, blankets and pillowcases. He made fast work of changing all the bedding. I must take this to the laundrette to wash, my love. It would be nice to lay in the fresh bedding. Claire smiled and whispered, yes, my love, and thank you for changing the bedding. Landry smiled and whispered, you're very welcome, sweetheart. Now let me run you a nice hot bath. You must feel the need to freshen up after all our naughty lives, both human and immortal. Claire laughed softly and replied, thank you, that would be lovely. Well then, mon chéri, let me prepare the bath for you. I have some soap, shampoo and deodorant you might like. Landry went over to the bath and began to turn the hot tub, after placing the bath plug into the bathtub. As the hot water poured into the bathtub, Landry walked over to the cupboard and picked out a bottle of shower gel, called a Besse de Plantes. The scent on the bottle was verbena. He then grabbed some shampoo called Eclair à Besse Plantes. The fragrance was verbena. The deodorant roll-on and spray just happened to be verbena scented, just like all the other sanitary products Claire would use to wash herself. Here, my love, one of your favourite scents. Thank you so much, my darling jewel. You are very welcome, sweetheart. Landry picked Claire up, who was still naked, and laid her down into the nice warm bath. He sat beside her, gently stroking the water over the top of her, leaning forward every so often to kiss her passionately upon her lips. Sighed Claire, as Landry stroked the warm water over her. Such a beautiful figure you have, my love. Thank you, my dark angel. Your figure is stunning as well. Why, thank you, my mortal love. You're very welcome, my immortal love. Landry passed Claire the shower gel, and she squeezed a little into her hand, lathering it up, and then washing down all parts of her body, until she was clean and smelled of the beautiful verbena. The scent was beautiful. Claire then took the bottle of shampoo, squeezed a little into her hand and lathered up the soap, before rubbing it into her hair and rinsing it out. Claire lay in the warm water for quite a while, as Landry lovingly stroked the water over the top of her body. Oh, I love you so much, Landry. She sighed. I love you so much. Hold on, my love. Let me get you a nice clean fresh night dress. From the cupboard, Landry replied. Thank you, my love, Claire said. You're very welcome, sweetheart, Landry responded. Landry stood up from his crouched position and walked over to the cupboard. Whilst I was lying in the beautiful warm water, I looked over the top of the water and noticed how dark grey it was. I thought, oh my God, I was filthy. Landry laughed cheerfully as he thumbed through the cupboard. Yes, my cherry, all the sweaty fun of the storm is to blame for this filthiness. And a little from me. You are clean. Come, let's get you out of the bath and dry. I found the perfect dress, one for your own. I absolutely loved it. It was a night dress in the style of the 1700s. The dress was made of pure silk, ankle length, and loose fitting. It featured beautifully embroidered lace, frilled sleeves that extended to full arm length. The embroidery on the length of the lace sleeves showcased roses, and the same rose pattern was also on the hem of the dress. It was perfect, just what Claire liked to wear. I couldn't dry off quick enough. I was eager to wear this beautiful dress. I took the lovely warm and fluffy towel and hurried to dry myself before slipping into the silky dress that my immortal love had laid out. You like? Asked Landry. I love it, replied Claire. Landry picked me up and carried me back into the main part of the mausoleum and laid me down in the clean, fresh, makeshift bed he had made. It felt so good and smelled so inviting. The scent of rose and lavender filled the air once more. As I lay there, I felt warm and comfortable, but I still felt weak and tired. Landry reached for the cigarettes and lit mine first, as he always did. We sat and cuddled, smoking for a while. I was so happy and content. Okay, my love, I shall be back. Where are you going, my love? I am to clean the bathtub and wash myself, and then your beloved vampire Landry is going to bring you a fresh snack and drink before laying down to sleep for a while. Claire smiled as Landry planted the most passionate of kisses upon Claire's lips. Landry stood up and made his way to the secret room. I could hear him cleaning the bathtub and then running it about for himself. He was humming an ancient French tune as he washed, and I missed him so much during this short time he was away in the secret room. I soon heard him step out the bathtub and cleaned it again. There was a rustling sound, and I assumed he was placing the dirty towels, along with the pillowcases, quilt covers, and blanket into the bin bag, ready to take them to be washed as he had mentioned earlier this evening. I missed my vampire so much. It felt like he had been gone for such a long time. In the main mausoleum room, I could hear the pattering of plates and the rustling sounds coming from the tap. Soon Landry re-entered the room, carrying a plate and a can of something. He made his way over to the makeshift bed and handed me a plate that contained a chocolate bar and a piece of toast with thick, smooth peanut butter generously spread across its surface. He also placed an open can of grape soda next to it. Here, my love, you will need this after my bite of lunch. It will help raise your blood sugar levels. Thank you so much, my darling. You're very welcome, sweetheart. come, eat, and then we may rest in a deepened slumber together. It's all been just as you like, sweetheart. Thank you, my love. I began to munch on the toast. First, and the peanut butter was silky and divine on my tongue. Just like the chocolate bar, I had never tasted soda before. It's French. The name was intriguing, but it tasted so delicious that it all disappeared quickly. My vampire love got up and picked up the plate, carrying it to the secret room. I heard him wash it and place the dish away before coming back and leaving the door open. Shall we have one last cigarette, my love? Please, my dark angel, I asked Landry. Landry took out a cigarette and passed it to me, lighting mine for his own. We sat there smoking contentedly before making sure both of the cigarettes had been put out properly. Landry got up and walked over to the black stands that held a chest between them. He raised his hand, extinguishing all the candles on the left stand. Then he walked over to the right stand, raised his hand again, and extinguished all the candles there as well. I can manifest, my love. I can light and extinguish flames at will, he said. I just sat there, mouth agape, shocked yet amazed and thrilled by his supernatural abilities. Landry gracefully sauntered over to the makeshift bed. He was wearing nothing but a clean pair of boxers. He laid next to me, wrapping his arms around my waist. Landry was kissing passionately up and down my neck, nuzzling his nose every so often. I love you so much, Claire. I love you so much, Landry. And as Landry lay there, holding Claire in his arms, stroking her hair gently, Claire let out the longest, loving sigh. Both Claire and Landry lay there, snuggling for what felt like an eternity. The only light left in the mausoleum was the ever-growing weaker flame of the candles in the essential oil burner. Claire felt a twinge of fear as the darkness enveloped her. The only light came from the soft, living glow of the candles in the oil burners. Landry whispered, "Don't be afraid, my love. I'm here with you. I'll hold you and keep you safe from the abyss of darkness." Claire buried her head deep into Landry's chest, breathing in the erotic lemon scent that lingered on his beautiful, waxy, immortal skin. "One of my favourite scents," she exclaimed. "I'm glad you like it, my love," he replied. "Now snuggle in deep, and let us enjoy the embrace of love and death. Let us revel in the sounds of the battering rain against the mausoleum roof, and the howling wind roaring against the walls, while the booming thunder continues to rumble into the darkness of the night." Claire sighed softly. "You're so very romantic, my dark angel." "Thank you, mon chéri. You are such a brave human to face death with such love, acceptance, and the will to confront a mortal fear that plagues the lives of all until that day comes when a human's life becomes the dust of the earth." Claire laid the feeling, comfortable and content. "Thank you, my dark angel love. I can face death in all its forms to be able to love you, to be by your side." "Very good, mon chéri. Then there will come a time when you may need to use this strength." Claire smiled again. "So be it. If or when that time comes, my love." Her eyes began to grow heavy, and as she slowly drifted into a deep sleep, she heard her beloved Landry whisper, "I love you. I love you too, Landry. Good night, my love. Good night, my immortal love." She felt her vampire passionately kiss her on the lips, and before long there was nothing but darkness, and a dream world that accompanied every time Claire went to sleep. I'm not sure how long I had been sleeping, but I soon awoke with a start. I don't know what woke me, but I felt a slight unease. Perhaps it was the raging storm, or the pitch-black darkness that shrouded the unnerving, quiet mausoleum. I looked over and could just make out the dark shadow of my figure of my vampire love. It looked like he wasn't breathing, and he looked so angelic, laying there fast asleep. Then it dawned on me, that's what was scaring me, was the idea of sleeping in a mausoleum, sleeping in a graveyard with open graves. Then I looked at my beloved Landry, and the fear soon disappeared into nothingness. I was safe. My vampire love was laying right next to me. I rolled over gently in the makeshift bed, and with a little struggle, I lifted one of my vampire's arms and placed it over the top of him. He didn't make a stir, and just lay there looking angelic and deathly still. As I lay there, my mind drifted to the events of what had happened that night. I began to smile as I snuggled into my vampire love. This night was something I could only have dreamt of. Who thought a simple walk to the graveyard to film some YouTube videos for my channel would end up in finding my vampire love's resting place? Who would have thought I would survive a night with a vampire, let alone with a vampire I love, with every essence of my soul being made love to by him, as well as being bitten by him, feels like a dream. Oh, how I wish this moment and this night would never end. As I lay there next to him, I noticed that the rumbles of thunder had stopped, and the wind had calmed to a gale. The rain continued to batter the walls and roof of the mausoleum, but it fell at a pace that was soothing rather than frightening. I felt at peace, completely happy and content in that moment. I lay there, my mind wandering non-stop about the night. Soon I began to feel very sleepy, and before long I drifted back to sleep. I woke with a start, as my alarm clock blared in the tone of a police siren. I smacked my lips as I began to open my eyes. I stretched up and rubbed my eyes. I sighed and grabbed my phone, which was lying on my floor next to my bed. It was 6 a.m. I pulled back the bed sheets and made my way to the bathroom. After using the toilet, I took some time to brush my teeth. Once I finished brushing and rinsing off my toothbrush, I placed it back into the holder before returning to the bedroom. As I stumbled shakily out of the bathroom, I could feel that my body ached from head to toe, and my neck was sore, though I didn't know why. I went to the wardrobe and pulled out a pair of plain black leggings, along with a black long-sleeved jumper. I also grabbed a black pair of underwear to wear with a black bra. Lastly, I took out my towel and soaps from the 1800s sideboard and headed back to the bathroom for a morning shower. Excited that no one else was home at this time, I didn't have to wait until 4 in the evening to wash. After washing up, I returned to my room, put away all my soaps and got dressed. With a towel wrapped around my head, I turned on my computer as usual and loaded up the internet. I preloaded YouTube so that once I got my coffee, I could play some music to enjoy while drinking my hot beverage. After starting up my computer and connecting to the internet, I opened my usual webpage and launched YouTube. I always keep my coffee cup beside my computer screen for easy access. I picked up my black cup, which features a tarot card and the lovers. Then I walked over to my bed, slipped on my flip-flops and made my way out of my bedroom and down the stairs towards the kitchen. It felt wonderful to have the house to myself, without my parents around, as I didn't have to deal with a narcissistic behaviour. No more shouting, "You're ugly, you stink, you're fat." No more dirty looks from my mother. It's just Prince and I. I made my way to the kitchen and pushed open the unsafe door. As always, there was debris littering the floor, making it sticky to step on. The sink held a grey, smelly, overused dish rag, and both bins were overflowing with bits of litter scattered around. Food spills decorated the oven and the areas around the hobs, leaving sticky surfaces. The air reeked of cigarette smoke. I went over to the sink and filled a saucepan with water. Lighting the hob was a challenge, since the built-in button no longer worked, so we had to use a handheld clicker that felt slimy and gross. As the water boiled, I washed my hands with a little fairy washing up liquid. I then went to my cupboard and added 3 teaspoons of coffee and 2 teaspoons of sugar to my cup. Before long, the water was ready, so I poured it into the cup and stirred, then cleaned and put away the saucepan. After that, I returned to the front room and opened a chicken meat pouch for my prince, placing it in his bowl. I discarded the empty pouch into the bin and washed my hands again, watching contentedly as Prince munched away at his breakfast. Both Prince and I then made our way upstairs. I placed my cup on a coaster sitting on my 1800s cabinet and grabbed my first cigarette of the day. I played many of my favourite songs from a band called Him. The music reminded me of Landry. I paced back and forth across the floor, smoking my cigarette while sipping my coffee, moving with the rhythm of each song played. Before long, I had finished my first coffee, and as always, I would always have 2 cups of coffee in the morning. I grabbed my cup and made my way downstairs to the kitchen as before. I made my coffee and walked back up the stairs with Prince. I placed the coffee cup on the coaster and noticed, in the corner of my room, my lime green hippie bag was sitting underneath my workout bike. I set my coffee cup down on the coaster and went towards my bag. I opened the flap of my bag, and just like in the dream, it had everything I'd packed for an adventure in the ancient graveyard. What I initially thought was just a dream turned out to be real. Claire stood there confused and started pulling out everything from the bag. There were the torches, the Goldstones tobacco, the lantern, candles, a thermos of soup, snacks, waters, tissues, sanitizers, the book, and everything else I had packed. When I pulled out my clothes, they smelled of rose and lavender oils. I realised this wasn't my usual incense. Mine is the cheap stuff that just smells like burning wood with a hint of fragrance. This scent was so much stronger. I laid everything out on the floor and just gawped at it with amazement. Slowly, I stood up and crouched into a crouched position, walking over to the cabinet and gripped my second cup of coffee, slowly sipping it. The hymn songs were still playing in the background. I savoured each drop of coffee, mesmerised. This couldn't have been real, but something in the back of my mind told me otherwise. I carried on sipping the coffee slowly and thought to myself it was real. That's why my body aches, my lady garden's sore, and my throat feels sore too. Claire approached the mirror on her wardrobe door and examined left side of her neck. There was nothing there. She then checked her wrists and found nothing as well. Turning her attention to the right side of her neck, she noticed 2 tiny pinprick holes. A bite mark, she thought. Suddenly, Claire began to swoon, drifting off into a mental fantasy, feeling a rush of excitement. Something extraordinary had occurred. Claire had really been in the arms of Landry, her vampire love. He had made love to her. He had bit her. It was real. It was real. But just as quickly as the excitement surged, it faded, leaving her in the depths of sorrow and sadness. Claire's eyes filled with tears as she began to sob. Landry, Landry, I want my Landry. The tears flowed like a troubled, terrible, endless flood, streaming down her cheeks in torrents. Her nose stuffed. All Claire wanted to do was curl up on the floor and cry endlessly. Slowly she walked towards her 1800s sideboard to grab some toilet paper that sat next to the salt lamp. She pulled a large piece from the roll and blew her nose, feeling like it would take a century before she could breathe clearly again. As she continued to sob, she dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed something, a yellow old piece of paper with a blood-red rose resting on top of it. Claire picked up the rose and sniffed it. It had the usual scent, but damp, as if raindrops had soaked its delicate petals. Water droplets had left marks on the paper beneath. She lifted the piece of paper and saw that it was written in traditional old-style handwriting. It was large, full-length letter addressed to Claire herself. In the letter, it read, "My dearest Claire, I hope this letter finds you well. I was so very much enjoyed our night together last night, and had the greatest of love in my heart for you. I wish for more than one encounter. I know, my human love, you are most likely standing in your room sobbing, weeping with the greatest of pain. Do not sob, my love. I told you there are more adventures to come. I love you so much, Claire. Dry your eyes, my love, and come to my mausoleum by 9 a.m. I wish to take you to a sacred place of mine. I wish to steal you for the night, too. Tell your mother and father you will be sleeping at a friend's house tonight, and will see them in the morning. I will be waiting outside my mausoleum for you with open arms of love. With much love, your vampire Landry." I stood there with my jaw dropped. Landry, my Landry. Claire didn't know what to do or how to proceed, but she ran to her 1800s cabinet and pulled out her foundation, eyeshadow, lipstick, mascara, both liquid and normal eyeliner, and rushed to the mirror, gathering everything she needed to style her hair. Claire sat down in front of the mirror that hung on the wardrobe door. She brushed and combed her hair into a high ponytail before using hairpins to create a sleek bun. Then she applied foundation to both her face and neck, finishing with powder. Claire chose a neutral, light brown eyeshadow for a smoky eye effect and framed her eyes with both styles of eyeliner. She topped it off with mascara and a light brown lipstick. Next, I went to my wardrobe door and pulled out my patchwork shoulder bag, decorated with blue, yellow and pink patches. I filled it with my mobile phone, a pouch of Goldstone's tobacco with extra papers and filters, 2 lighters, hand sanitizers, tissues, my lipstick, a small compact mirror, my purse with plenty of money, my keys, a portable ashtray, and my passport in case I needed to show ID at a local shop. After getting myself ready, I ran down the stairs, grabbed a bottle of water and placed it in my bag. Oh God, I was so excited. I couldn't wait to be in the arms of my vampire loves again. At this point, I was incredibly excited and running around like a headless chicken. My parents were still out shopping and wouldn't be back home anytime soon. But it was now 7:30 a.m. and I had to make my way to the ancient graveyard. I went into the kitchen with my cup in hand, washed it, cleaned Prince's food bowl before filling it with his usual dog food for the day. I also went outside and filled a freshly cleaned bowl with water, placing both bowls back in the spot where Prince eats and drinks. Next, I ran upstairs to my room, still with cup in hand, and put it back into the 1800s sideboard. I picked up my bed sheet and quickly remade my bed, ensuring my room was clean and tidy. After that, I double-checked that everything was in my bag and ready to go. I went into my wardrobe and rummaged through my clothes, picking out one of my favourite jackets. This jacket was long, finishing just above the knee, and was black with a beautiful golden red and purple oriental pattern on the back. The buttons were rounded material buttons, and it had a high collar with the same pattern stripes. I quickly put on this coat and made my way to the bathroom for one last trip before I left. I was overly excited and wanted to go at that moment, but there were still a few things I needed to do first. I went downstairs and grabbed a piece of paper to write a short note for my parents, who were still out food shopping. So the note read, "Hi, Mum and Dad. I'm going to meet up with a friend, and we'll be staying at his place for the night." I fed Prince, gave him his meaty chunks as well as a clean, fresh bowl of water. Love you, Tan Sloth. I had just finished writing my note to my parents and left it on the living room coffee table. I went into the kitchen to check that the kitchen and the oven was clean and the oven was off after this morning's coffee. You know how your mind can play tricks on you. It always asks, did you turn off the oven? Even when you know you did. That thought just makes you panic. I went upstairs to my prince and spent 20 minutes giving him huge hugs and kisses, telling him that Mummy would be out all day, but he would see me tomorrow. I'm going to miss him, but my love Landry awaits. Once I finished snuggling my prince and checking everything, I made my way to the door. I shouted, see you soon, my cute cuddly doggy. Bye. I quickly unlocked the door, closed it, and locked it behind me, standing on the doorstep. I felt ready to go, thinking, I'm coming, Landry, my love, I'm coming. Stumbled upon an ancient tomb, my soul filled with deepened gloom. Trapped in the mausoleum, there I bumped into him, my dark vampire angel holding his violin. Forever my soul will belong to him.